you are doing well. Hopefully everything's good. It's Tech Talk time once again. So if you don't know what Tech Talks are, it's kind of like a weekly podcast thing where we go through the comments of the last Tech Talk and kind of like, give some thoughts and ideas and also listen to people's general questions and what's kind of been going on. So it's pretty cool. It's nice, at least for me, just to kind of relax and sit here and see what you guys are thinking about things, which I think is, kind of an important thing. One of the things, like, over the years I've been told constantly is that people don't have, like, an area where they can kind of voice their stuff. And recently, even today, or the last few days, we've seen some stuff crazily astroturfed when it came to those types of ideas. So I think, why not just kind of have this area where people can, put forward their ideas, and it can be in kind of video form. Hey, Hard Puzzle Grease, nice to see you too, Borrow Tax. So yeah, we're doing it on Friday, and we are streaming it as well. If you do have stuff that you want on, obviously, the next Tech Talk, make sure to stick it in the comments. We're going to be respading a bunch of vehicles today because EFS. So really fun. Got my new setup sorted as well, so it's going to look a little bit weird from your point of view. Not everything is like fully sorted out right now, but it's getting there and it's pretty close. So just to kind of let you know about that. I'm running a two PC setup now, so I can stream or play games while also doing all the other things, and it doesn't massively damage the PC. Because one of the problems I was having doing what I do, like doing stuff like YouTube, and then also doing things such as streaming and everything else, is it really takes a toll on the PC. So the way that I'm doing it now is I have a PC which is straight up dedicated to just playing the game. We have an Elgato system which you plug into one PC, it feeds into the other one, and now the other PC is just for processing, just for recording, just for streaming. So it takes off a lot of the hassle from one of the PCs. The only issue with that is sorting out audio stuff, which is always a pain in the ass, especially when Windows updates, because it just breaks everything. And then the other thing is also sorting out having two sets of keyboards and two sets of mice and all these things. Luckily, I only need one headset though, so thank God. Otherwise, I might have gone insane. But everything's set up now, so starting next week, it should all be good, and a lot of stress is off the head. Like we sorted out the Mrs.'s PC as well. So now Agnes is born. So right now we have Bertha, who is the backup PC, Gertrude, who is the streaming PC, Mavis, who is the gaming PC, and then we have Agnes, which is the Mrs.'s PC. So all good, all sorted, all happy. Now let's get into the tech talk. And other things that kind of happened this week, So content wise, I've just been kind of doing some stuff that I've wanted to do for a while. So getting some video ideas around the place and sorting them out. And also at the same time, just been keeping up with the news. The bunch of events started today, so I've been focusing on like spading vehicles and having a bit of fun with it. And yeah, it's been a bit all over the place, but pretty good and pretty fun. Highly recommend, obviously doing the events if you're grinding anyway. It didn't take too long for me to get the 45k yesterday, and I was jumping around BRs quite a lot. So yeah, getting it done in one day is not too hard, at least for me to do. You're naming your PCs? I think it's good to name your PCs, don't you think? Isn't it nice to have a name for a PC? I think it's good to do stuff like that instead of just leaving it to be kind of like a boring thing. We basically named them old age British women names. So a lot of like Victorian names, like Mavis, Agnes, things like that. I think it's good to do instead of you got to give personality to a few things, especially if you deal with them every day. So first of all, we have Karam Chan, obviously with the good old timestamps. As always, thank you to Karam Chan for doing that. It's very kind of him to do that. And also at the same time, Karam actually pushed me towards a Netflix show, which is the one out of Poland right now. If you like stuff like Norseman, you'll really enjoy. I think it's called 1760 or something like that. It's basically the same idea as Norseman, apart from it's in Poland, and yeah, it's overall pretty fun. I'd definitely give it a go. Well worth having a bit of fun with it. So let's have a look at the first one. So we have Ducas Octavius the Eighth. So there you go. Bro, you need to take a rest. We want you to make vids, but not that often. I mean, to be honest, like the video making part, at least for me, is like the easiest thing about everything to do with this stuff. Like the thing about War Thunder is that there's literally just so much stuff going on, man. Like it's so ridiculous how many things are happening, even in this January period, where January is usually pretty slow. After I did like all of the additional stuff, like sorting out a lot of the stuff from December and kind of like the award stuff, there still was, a ton of stuff to do. And now with like this kind of new setup, the way that they're doing events and things, it just keeps going, right? So for me, the video part, like it literally takes me about an hour a day to do those. The hardest thing nowadays is actually working out what times they're going to do things, because sometimes they'll release stuff late in the day and it just completely screws me, knocks me off like my standard pattern. But at the same time, if I don't cover everything, or if I don't have a look at everything, then people are gonna ask, well, why haven't you talked about this, or why haven't you talked about that? And if I just go because there just isn't time or whatever, then it just kind of is how it is. But the thing for me is I enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking about concepts in War Thunder. I enjoy playing a bunch of the different vehicles. I enjoy like chatting about stuff and reading about things. I think it's fun to do so. Like it's like I could just make just like one video a day about a topic and that would be it. And yeah, it would probably get higher viewership because, people don't want to have a bunch of different things going on at the same time. But the problem is that wouldn't cover everything. That would only cover a very small thing with what's going on. And for me, I enjoy looking at all the stuff's going on. And it's also a way of me keeping up with everything that's happening, which is hard to do nowadays because of all the stuff going on. So it's just kind of how it is. We're going to be revamping it, so it works a little bit differently going forward, but nothing too crazy. I've thought about the idea of kind of doing like a week, like on Sunday, I kind of want to take Sunday off in a way. And one of the ways that I was thinking of doing it would be to make kind of like a weekly highlight video, which kind of shows everything that happened in that week. So instead of people having to watch, the different videos for the different things and kind of pick and choose the stuff which they like, which is the whole point of like the system, the way it would be instead is you could just watch that and get kind of all the news. But the problem is you would only get snippets of it, right? Like there was a thing that happened a while ago where somebody was actually making like dev server in like 60 seconds, and if people watch that, they would just get a horrific idea of what was on the dev server because so much stuff would be cut out. And what ended up happening is when stuff hit the live server and things just weren't covered, people were just like, where the hell is this? Or what the hell was that? Or where did this come from? So the way that I do stuff is designed so people have as much opportunity to understand what's going on as possible, for me to be able to also give my opinions on things, and also, thirdly, so people can pick and choose the stuff that they want. Like today, we had a video about the change logs, and then also quite a large bug that's in the game. There's also a video about the mechanics, which are past the developers for January, and then another video which is about the roadmap stuff. Like all three of those things, right? The roadmap obviously came out a few days ago, right? And then if you have a think about the If you have a think about the change logs, they literally came out today. The bug was experienced yesterday afternoon, and the patch to developers came out yesterday or the day before. So that's the thing. That's like the content cycle right now. There's just so much of it. It is kind of nuts. So it's just kind of how it goes right now. We'll see what changes in the future. If I get more personally busy, then obviously stuff like that will change, but it won't, I don't think, anytime soon. Hey, Mwah, nice to see you. Unfortunately, I'm taken, but you would have been my second choice. So then we have Alexander Walker. Let's just see if I can... There we go. Hello, Tech. I just felt like leaving a comment. I hope you're having a good day, and thanks for doing what you do. Anytime. I like your profile pic. It's like Shrek with a beard. But at the 2-hour mark, you talked about Dawn of War 3 having a keyboard bug. I have that for War Thunder, but I have to click on the taskbar for War Thunder to fix it. That's so weird. Yeah, so for me, one of the things that has helped me out a lot, I don't do it right now because of my setup, but I change this. Well, if I have like an issue where like the taskbar's showing at the bottom or whatever, I just flip between these and eventually it fixes it. But yeah, stuff like that's super annoying. It has Dawn of once again, Dawn of War 3 was just so sad, man. I haven't got it, Monet. Do you have a link to it so I can sort it out? It just made me so sad. Like the whole thing. Because it's such a fun, like the actual mechanics of the game work really well. You know, I think they actually merged the standard unit and the hero unit pretty good. They just cocked up everything else. Like the more I think about it, you know, it just makes me sad. You know, so it's just kind of how it is. I'm hoping that in the future, what they do is they kind of come back with that series. I was actually watching a Q&A more recently, and somebody was talking about how the RTS genre was coming back in quite a large way. And then, you know, they're kind of like there's a few things going on. Like there's that Stargate or Stormgate game that they never shut up about, and which has been around for ages. And then some kind of remasters of old games, like stuff like Age of Mythology, I think, and also Age of Empires getting some stuff going. So hopefully, you know, hopefully we can see more stuff like that, because I love that stuff, you know. That's exactly what where I'm at when it comes to these things. So yeah, it's a genre which I love, and I have so many games to play in. And the one thing now is I'm trying to get the Blitzkrieg games to work. So trying to get those guys sorted. But the first Blitzkrieg, I'm having a really tough time actually making it work properly. So we might just have to skip it, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. Here's the link to the code someone money posted. Was it only posted on like Chinese like media or something? That's kind of weird. Alright, I'll stick in a video tomorrow. This reminds me of when they only do like Japanese things. This one's for the isn't it for like there's a service like I think it's like a Chinese VPN service or something, and you can, if you use it, you get better ping or something. Like that's what it's at least designed to do. I don't know if it actually works or not, you know. My parents are watching some sort of series, but the hilarious part is the music's the same that War Thunder has. What do 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 do. But yeah, I'm really this year. There's a bunch of RTSs that I'm gonna play, and you know, Broken Arrow just had kind of like an open beta thing that people seem to enjoy, and Men of War 2 obviously gets a hell out of big expansion last year. There's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to and play. So don't forget to share with everyone the majestic look of your car and the UU Girl decal. Don't forget the accelerator. You can say goodbye to annoying packy loss delays forever. Yeah, alright. Alright, Chief. Yeah. Packy loss cease to exist. Just disappears, which is quite funny. But yeah, Dawn of War just made me sad. But you know, that's one of the things you got to go through, right? Like if you play like a bunch of different stuff and you try a bunch of different stuff, you're gonna run into a bunch of issues. And c'est la vie. It gives good perspective when looking at other stuff and why you know, certain things failed and why certain things are doing okay. So we have Real Canadian. Love the vids, so keep them up. Oh, I will do. You know, there's no stopping this train, at least yet. Where I'm committed to at least another year when it comes to all this stuff, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be many, many more. So, like the simple fact is, I really enjoy doing this, and it gives me. And I know it may seem weird, right, because of like the way that I do things, but it actually gives me a good balance in life. And balance in life is very different depending on the different individuals that you talk to. Like a lot of people would look at what I do and think I'm manic, you know, doing like the full-time job stuff, doing the streaming stuff, doing the YouTube stuff and also other stuff, but it's literally, you know, how I work. And if I wasn't doing this stuff, I'd be doing other things. So for me, I'm really feeling good. Like last year was very positive. We had a great time, and I had a really fun time streaming, really fun time making YouTube videos. You know, having fun with like all the AI stuff and also trying different things and going around the place. And yeah, it's just a really fun time to be to be here and to be doing stuff right now. It's really nice. Thank you for the Prime subscription, Sarge Moon. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. We'll be watching the Six Nations game today, by the way, as well. And that's on in about an hour, I think. France versus Ireland. It's a big banger. Let's see how it goes. Hey, Teddy, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. So we have Pilot Hund. I wish they would give us a map of when the event vehicles are coming so that we can plan ahead of time. Also, can they please take some of the launch smoke away from the roller missiles? The first 30 seconds of flight, you can't see anything. I mean, they're getting better at telling us what was going on. Like they've said like their plans of the year, right? Like what they're gonna do and what you know, the general like rotation of how they're gonna do everything. So, you know, you can kind of plan based off that. But also the big thing about War Thunder is literally just having a look at what they've done in the past, because they'll follow the same plot of what they've done previously because it's worked. So you'll see that stuff continuously happen over and over and over again. So even if you're not given a defined list of what is coming and when it's coming, you know what the overall framework is that they're going to work with, and then you can kind of go from there. So the idea is, obviously, FOMO is something that's built into a lot of these events. So if you tell people when stuff is going to happen or what vehicles are going to come out at what time, they're just going to wait until that time, right? Like they're not they're not going to get involved previously, and they're just going to, you know, not do too much. There really is a thing where giving people too much information about what's going on is kind of a negative. Because if you plan out your next like 5 years and then you say, okay, so we're doing all of this stuff in the next 5 years, and then you don't do those things, or for example, if you have to change up like something, or maybe something isn't ready in time, or maybe whatever you plan just wouldn't work, which is another thing, right? Like you had a plan like a year ago, 2 years ago, and it just turns out, you know, we can't build it in the game, or you know, stuff goes wrong, or maybe somebody gets fired and they were the person who was working on that thing. Like there's all these different factors that can come into it, so giving like a defined list of what's going to go on probably ain't going to work very well. So the fact that they give us so much information nowadays compared to previously is crazy to me, and it's super super good. I would like to kind of I'd kind of remind people about certain times in War Thunder history. For many years, they would announce events the day that the event started. So, for example, the space race event, which was the 279 event, they announced it the day it came out. So, and it was a crafting event. So, if you didn't grind that first day, you basically could miss, I think it was like 1 day or maybe 2 days, or you couldn't get the 279. This used to happen with summer events. This used to happen with winter events. This used to happen with every single event. They would just put out the article and say, hey, by the way, this is available now. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what if I'm busy that day? Oh, well, it turns out you're screwed. Like nowadays, they actually say, like in the battle pass thing, hey, so the battle pass is gonna come out next week. Here's the devlog or one of the devlogs for it, or hey, here's the new event cycle. The first one's gonna start on this day. Like that in my head is just like mind blowing because for years, like 6, 7 years in War Thunder, you wouldn't get anything like that. You would get, hey, Bucko, you need to turn up and do this. So the way that it is now is so much better than previously. And could it be improved? Of course. But the idea of having, a structured system like that, nobody's ever going to do that. Because first of all, it means that you can't market new stuff because everybody knows what's coming, which is why leaks can be super dangerous in that way. And then also at the same time, it means that if you are once again trying to sell a product, but you know that a better product is going to come later down in the line, like that year or next year, then people are just going to wait for that next one. And it's just not, no one's going to care about the first one. And then when that next one comes around, they'll probably announce a better product, so no one's going to care about that one. And yeah, it's a bit of a crazy thing, right? That's why I don't plan all of my days at the start of the year to not be held back and then having to take all the remaining days in the winter. For me, I plan my week on Sunday the week before. So I work out everything that I need to do and then kind of go from there. Hey, Zara, nice to see you. Happy Friday. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully everything's good. And yeah, the missiles are high tier. I don't know what they decided to do with them, but yeah, the amount of smoke that comes off of them, especially when you start firing them, is kind of nuts. They really nerfed those things into the ground. And also, once again, the last few change logs, they've now buffed, or not buffed, but fixed the targeting pods. So now the high tier cast is just going to be even more powerful again. So fun times. Not exactly a great experience overall, but we'll see how it goes. Anything's possible. So let's see what goes on. So we have Insane Robert. Hello, TEC. Oh, hi, Liberator. Nice to see you. I looked up Fred Dibner and watched some more videos about him. What a guy. I want to watch more vids of him. Yeah, Fred Dibner, if you don't know who he is, he's a steeplejack, he's dead now, but basically he was a guy who would like demolish buildings, or one of the more famous videos is him going up big stacks of chimneys and actually knocking them down brick by brick, because if you didn't do that, then the thing would have fallen on a different building. Fred Dibner as like kind of a dude is interesting with his job and everything, but one of the things I do want to mention about Fred is he wasn't exactly the best person alive. So he was really rough to his wife, and also he like eventually left her for some like young thing, as you do. So yeah, he's a typical dude like that, unfortunately. But yeah. Oh, there we go. What was wrong with the targeting pods? They weren't detecting certain enemies at certain distances. So that's basically it. Regarding the discussion on heli PvE, you said that this mode Israeli sees players and the BR separation shouldn't happen. While this was true for PvP mode, on heli PvE we actually saw an increase in players, and to be honest, one of the issues we have right now is that some matches are accepting too many players into one match. 4 to 6 players are usually enough to finish one match between 30 to 60 minutes, but if there are 10 players, most of them will never even reach enemy units to make some activity. So many of them actually leave the match because there's too many people and can't do much in the match. It's true that it's not the same number of people as in air or ground modes, but it's okay these days. As I said before, I prefer to limit the number of people per match since it's a co-op mode. Mostly, I would like that everyone gets to do something, not just join and be forced to watch others kill ground targets. Yeah, let's do this. Another issue is that right now we have 7.7 to 9.3 BR and 9.7 to 11.x matches. If you start with a vehicle like the Mi-4, the H-34, you must compete with Mi-24 players or UH-1Cs for targets. You'll not reach the targets in time in many instances unless they spawn near you, and that's just a matter of luck. Same for 9.7 and AH1F or Z9W with 4 kilometer range will not do much against K50s, K52s with 8 to 10 and more armament. This also discourages many people to join in battles with mid-tier helicopters because of that, and the rare few ones that join in struggle with enough activity. Sure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, fine. Like, if it improves the game, why not? Like, at the end of the day, for me, I don't put too much thought into heli PvE just because it's something which isn't like, a huge part of the reason why I play War Thunder. But if people think the experience could be bettered by smaller games with less people, so more targets for each individual, sure, why not? Can one afford to miss a day in this event? Yes, if you only want the 292. So yeah, if that's better, then that's better. Like, the problem I have is I'm not a very good person to talk about helicopter PvE because I don't really play it and I don't really have too much interest in it. So when people ask me about it, I always just talk about kind of what used to be there and how the system is much better nowadays. But of course, then the next step is, well, even though it's better nowadays, how can we make it better? And that conversation is above my head and above my pay grade. So, like, that's the thing. But for me, like, whatever to do to make it better, sure. Like, why not? Make smaller teams, give people more targets, give people easily accessible targets, and try and once again limit people using the crazy machines that take over games and remove the bots. Easy peasy. Why not? So we have Pig Stick. I got a new personal offer. If you need a refresher on what the last one was, it was Brombar, 500,000 SL, and 10% boosters for allies for 4,175 G. My new one is the XP55 and 100k for 3000 G. The XP55 is normally 4000 G, so I'd say that's not bad. Well, apart from if you just wait like a few months, you can pick it up 50% off, but yeah. The personal offers this January have been a joke. As I've said before, it's actually kind of sad when you think about it. So we obviously just had the November sales, we had the December sales, and we've even had console sales. So we've had sales on everything. And then about half a month to a month later, they start bringing in these personal offers, which, if you compare the value of them to those sales, is insanely poor, just overall. And it just makes me super sad because it's preying on people who don't know better. And that's one of the things that pisses me off a lot about marketing sometimes, where it's not about trying to actually sell your product in a way that is beneficial to everybody. It's about trying your best to con people to sell a product that is not of that value compared to previously, right? It's the whole thing is basically going, hey, so we have like this special offer for you, and you should take this special offer because if you don't, then it's gonna go away. But it's just preying on people not knowing what's going on. And all of those offers are awful. No matter the value, no matter anything. I haven't seen a single one that actually works at all in favor of the player compared to what you get out of it. And once again, they did exactly the same thing that they do every time, and what every company does. Remember when they had those 90% offers? Where you could like pick and choose what vehicle you could get 90% off. So people are like, these personalized offers are really cool. Then they did the next step, which was like, hey, you wanna pick up this vehicle for 30% off? That's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah, even though you can just buy it 50% off in a few months, but yeah, you can pick it up. Ain't that great? And then they're hitting you with these ones, and this was the goal all along. It was to start off with the nice ones where everybody goes, these aren't too bad. And then they just keep ramping it up. They keep removing the value from them and keep tossing in other stuff to them to make you think that, that is something to focus on. The fact that 1 million SL is valued as high as it is actually disgusting. Like it's just crazy at the end of the day. But yeah, it's just nuts to me. So it's just I really don't like it. I don't like anything like that, man. And I've gone through it like many times. I think it's one of the worst things about general general just company stuff. Like we're seeing it now with the loot box stuff. Hey, look, here's another loot box. Hey, so the only way you can get these old vehicles is through the loot box. Make sure to gamble. Make sure to, hey, we did all those economy changes for your benefit, you know? Oh, you got more SL now? Great. Stick into loot boxes. And then next year we'll make them worse. And then next year we'll make them worse. And then the year after they'll be only for GE. But don't worry, we'll give you a way of grinding little bits of GE out so it'll make you feel good. Every single bloody time. Every single time with this stuff. It just sucks. Every time. So, yeah. It annoys me. And then people just keep saying it's fine because it's people it's down to the individual, right? It's down to the individual to make proper decisions. That's fair, but there are a lot of people who aren't first of all fully there when it comes to their mental capacity, or they're just straight up young or haven't dealt with addiction before. So yeah, nuts. Got any tips for Sim? Unfortunately, not Wahoo. No, I haven't really. If you watch a guy on Twitch called Wingling Dragon, he's played Sim for years and is very good at Simulator. He can give you some tips. What's this event tank like? Worth the grind? For me, yeah. Like, it's a T80 without any secondary stuff, but with a big donkey gun. So it's a 152mm with a really good APF SDS with a 10-second reload on a T80B chassis, right? So decent mobility, good gun, literally nothing else. You know, has a stabilizer, but doesn't have thermals, doesn't have smoke grenades, doesn't have really anything. So for me, is it worth it? Yeah, because it's a pretty cool vehicle, and I've been looking forward to the big donkers for a while. But for many others, I feel like it's probably not worth it. So we have Gian Marcos. Gian Marco Marso. There you go. Hi, Tech. Hi. Hope life has been kind to you. Yeah, I think overall it's been pretty good. Haven't really had anything go a bit haywire this week. Just been sorting out new like setups basically, which is, you know, not always the easiest thing, but it's been going pretty well. Every time someone asks when is X vehicle going to come to the game, I answer like you. If it was built, it'll come to the game. However, I'm curious about Gaijin's production pipeline. What they slate for when? I don't mean the obvious stuff like the progression towards modernity in air and ground and top tier, but stuff like the addition of SPGs or which event vehicles and when to introduce it. Since you're a living encyclopedia of War Thunder history, oh dear. I'd be interested in your thoughts about how Gaijin goes about introducing and timing vehicles, and how far into the future they have it planned. Thank you for the subscription, Big Traveler. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. There's videos from early as 2010 and 2011 of Anton Yudintsev and even Kirill and a few others who work at Gaijin or own Gaijin, talking about what they want to do in the future. So there literally is an interview in China that Anton did about the creation of War Thunder and what they wanted to do with it. Some of the ideas that they talked about in that video, so remember that video, or videos I should say, were from like 2011, 2012, and the interesting thing about them was they were talking stuff like 6, 7, 8 years in the future of what happened. Now, most companies plan years ahead, right? Especially when it comes to large companies. 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, whatever it is. So usually you're like 1 year or 2 year is pretty like standard. And what I mean by that is kind of everything's worked out and then you roll with the punches as it goes along. And then when it comes to the more extended plans, it's more kind of wishy-washy and can be adapted as goes around, right? So I'm sure, like, when it comes to at least 5 years, they probably have a framework of what they want to do, what they want to achieve, or what things they want to work towards, whether it's with vehicles, whether it's with, different stuff, or whether it is with, different even games or things like that. I'm sure that all of that exists when it comes to the company. But interestingly, the way that Gaijin works is slightly different to many others. Gaijin is a lot less decentralized than people think. So what I mean by this is instead of like you have obviously the core development group, right? But you have all of these kind of little moving parts in different places that look after different areas of the game or just different content development or bug fixing and stuff. So one of the big things that was always talked about and always funny to hear in War Thunder was the idea of, well, why do they produce new vehicles? Why don't they just deal with the bugs? And it's like, well, because it's separate people doing the two things, right? Like it's not the same people who do all of these different things. And you have all of these little groups like all over the world which all produce their own little thing, and then it comes together kind of like an orchestra with all the different instruments and all of the different harmonies, and everybody sits down and plays the same musical piece. So sometimes different groups can work more efficiently than others. So certain things can be ahead of development schedule, other things can be behind development schedule. And this happens a lot when it comes to War Thunder, which is why certain ideas take longer to create, such as the research progression of like different tech trees, right? Now you obviously have your standard thing that hasn't changed ever when it comes to War Thunder, like the 5 major updates, the event series of summer and winter, and then obviously the other events that they do, which kind of is a bit malleable. Also, 4 battle passes a year, which has now become a standard. And then you have like the standard way that they do things. You have the trailer, the sneak peek, the dev server, maybe a second dev server, but probably an elongated dev server, and then you have the update, right? Like all of this stuff is kind of set in stone. Then you have like the past to developers stuff that happens, then you have all of these things going on. So in terms of a plan of where they want War Thunder to be, I'm sure it's definitely years, going around, right? Like it's definitely years that are happening with these things. And I would easily say, like, at least in some times when discussing stuff, there will be thoughts towards what happens in about 5 years' time, especially with a product like War Thunder, which is the main. You got to remember, it's kind of the pillar of Gaijin Entertainment, right? All of their other games are nowhere near as successful as War Thunder actually is. So they have to keep that one going as the flagship for everything else. Very similar to like World of Warcraft for Blizzard and, stuff like Call of Duty for Treyarch or Activision. It's the same idea. So yeah. This whole year will be planned out. And also one of the other things that happens is what people see in other places. We talked about this. Was it last time or was it? It was in some video. It might have even been on a stream. One of the really key things that is kind of really important to do is kind of look at what other products are doing at the time. So, for example, one of the reasons why we have a lot of the new kind of graphics settings around clouds and also the whole like the fact that they have fully realistically modeled like places when it comes to where the stars are, when it comes to where where it comes to where the sun is, where it comes to where the clouds are, all of these things. The reason why they exist is because obviously a push towards that, but also because of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Microsoft Flight Simulator came out and their graphical fidelity was insane. And the way that they actually did stuff, with the newest Microsoft Flight Simulator, like a bunch of people looked at it and went, "Wow, that's pretty crazy." Like how the hell did they do that? Can we do that? Hey, Salsalator, nice to see you. So now, one of the reasons you have stuff like this is because of what other projects or other things have done. And, you know, that happens in all walks of life. If somebody makes, like in, I don't know, if somebody makes a new technology, everybody looks at it and goes, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if I can adapt it into what I do, or if, you know, you can move it around. So you'll have this structured plan of what they want to do, but it's super malleable because of all of the teams that they have going around, and then also at the same time all the things they want to pop in with. It's really cool to actually watch. Because just like the game being fluid and being, you know, one which constantly changes pretty much like every few days in certain areas, the company has to as well. And yeah, pretty interesting. So I also nowadays I wouldn't go along the route of saying if it was built, because I still say it and I still believe it. If it was built, it'll come to the game. But you could probably expand that nowadays, since we do have a bunch of vehicles that were added to the game, which weren't built. So they've really kind of humped up that kind of side of things, which is interesting to see. Good evening, Juan. Nice to see you. Well, the Challenger 3 was built, but I mean stuff like the Kronstadt, right? Stuff like the Stalingrad, which is going to be coming in at some point. Also, you know, some of the submarine stuff, you know, all these different things. So there's plenty of things that are being worked on right now, which will come to the game, which never existed in real life. So I have to see what goes on with it. Right, that's 3 engine fires. Is that good enough? Will he die? God damn. Did all of his fires go out? Oh, he probably has EFS, right? But yeah, like there's plenty of vehicles, especially nowadays, that they'll add, which won't which didn't really exist. But yeah, I'm sure they do plan out when they're going to push certain vehicles. Like we obviously had a year where like light tanks were super prevalent, and they also started like really going ham on all of the kind of SPHs as you talked about. You know, battleships obviously being a thing in one of the years, you know, dreadnoughts and things like that. Those types of themes will definitely be sorted out, like, you know, years in advance, because the actual production of these things takes a long time, and even with techniques getting better and better and better, it's still going to take a long time to sort them out, right? Thank you for the subscription, Gifted Greed. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. Nice to see you, by the way. Hopefully the house is going okay. Hopefully you've been getting it all sorted, man. Hopefully it's all good. Let's just see if when is the Six Nations? Oh, it's Wales under 20 versus Scotland under 20. Who's winning that? I just wanna check real quick. You might hear a noise.
In 5 years, I'll be king of the court.
I definitely won't. Bloody hell. I can't imagine me being king of any court when it comes to tennis. I don't have the moves. Definitely a little bit slow around the place. It's 8-5 to Wales. There you go. That's the under 20s right now. Pretty cool. You just got the last tier 4 prop plane? Nice, Scott. Well done. So we have C76 Caravan. Always a fun name to say. Hey, Tech. Hi. Hello. Hey up. Should foliage decoration, despite now being able to be shot off, affect the driver skill or the gunner skill if it's mounted in such a way that blocks in their view? Using a realistic impact to give some negative impact would require to pay more attention to the placement and reduce the ability to bush up so extensively that the tank is completely vanished and gives a sizable alpha strike opportunity. Yes, I think it should. It blocks commander view. I don't know why it doesn't block gunner or driver view. It's never really made any sense to me. It might be the way that they're made or programmed or something. But yeah, they really should make it so if you just stick a bush on your gunner optic, you can't see through it. It's something that they have actually done in simulator with the more realistic aiming kind of reticle thing, but they really should do it in realistic as well. And it would mean that, yes, people wouldn't just be able to fully bush up their vehicles, but I'm kind of fine with that. I've always found stuff like that to be quite egregious. I still really disagree with the fact that back in the day, they let people buy that like 5 stack of large bushes and then just took it away from sale because they realized it was stupidly OP, but let people keep all of that stuff. It was silly. It really was and still is. The home will be moving ready after next week. Well done, Gifted Greed. Good stuff, man. I know it's been a slog, but well done. Fantastic to hear. Good stuff. So yeah, I would personally do that. I think it would be a positive thing to do. Everybody's just crashing into the ground. I don't think that people should be able to abuse game mechanics like that, especially in realistic modes. Isn't it because the gunner camera in RB is at the end of the gun barrel? That one is, yeah. You got to remember there's two optics. You can get the realistic gunner optic, which is the one which is actually behind it, where the actual gunner optic is. And the one that everybody uses, because, you know, why would you use the other one, is the one that's at the end of the barrel. So yeah, I would actually just remove I'll just remove the other one. Weird that shooting optics doesn't hinder gunner's view. Yeah, they kind of said that they were going to do something with that. But I think it was more like creating just more modern FCS. So they said in the roadmap they're doing that, right? So that kind of worries me. I see Emmanuel. What's the best tier 4? What's the... Hey, Lord of the Onion Ring, nice to see you. Could you try again? I can only read about half of that. I'm guessing it's saying what's the best tier 4 American vehicle, right? But I don't know. I'd have to look through things. Just take this guy out. But yeah, if people are using stuff for a competitive advantage, then I'm fine with it being able to be destroyed. The destructible stuff was one of the best changes that was made, where you can kind of like take it off, because there was so many bush Wookiees, man. And yeah. Oh, the best tier 4 jet? I don't think there are that many tier 4 jets. The P-59, probably. I couldn't kill that guy. The P-59's probably there. Then we have the Rex. Hey, TEC, do you think things like the Sturm Tiger might come back one day? Yeah, but as we were talking about earlier, now that everybody just seems to be completely fine with just loot boxes and gambling, they'll come back in loot boxes and gambling. Because that way, people like think that they can get it, and also less people will get it, and it also drains people's resources. So, yeah, they'll come back, but they won't come back in events anymore. Every event now or everything, you'll just get a new loot box, and it will be what happened, what was there previously in the event. So you'll get, for example, right now we've got the Call of the Dragon loot box, which has all of the event vehicles from February and January when we've had events in the past. I think is there Leningrad in it actually? I'm not sure if that's there because that was like a one-off event back there. So that's something they're gonna do. The summer event, they'll bring back the lollipop fucking loot box, and it'll have all of the summer event vehicles in it. The winter event, the same thing, and then you'll have another loot box which is around like autumn time, where they usually have the other event, and it will be called like, you know, the sycamore tree box, and it'll have all the event vehicles from there. So it's a way that they can pump people up to use the market, rid them of their resources that they have access to, and also make it so they also still can't get the vehicles that they want through the systems. It's why gambling is so prolific. The house always wins, but people always think that they can win, even though the percentages are against them. And the percentages get worse and worse and worse as you go along. My favorite jet is the Meteor F Mark III. Hey, Kathoris, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. So yeah, it'll be back. Just probably not the way that you want it to be. And we have the Tonk guy saying, what's the timestamp for the market manipulation talked about? Oh, I can't remember. It was probably a few hours into the tech talk itself. But yeah, the main things about market manipulation are pretty simple. Like, if you're a CC, you can completely manipulate the market, which is why there should be a huge rule against that, but literally nobody has written anything down about it. Like, you can easily pump vehicles and dump them. Like, even we did it by accident once. So I made a video about the market and opening a bunch of loot boxes, and I ended up getting the I think it was the RBT5, and I basically had got like a KV1B from a box way back in the day, and I didn't want to keep it because I don't want the KV1B, and so I traded it in for Gaijin coin, and then ended up just getting a bunch of boxes and then kind of doing like a circle. And the idea of it was to kind of prove that doing the gambling is a bad idea, and it is. Obviously, you lose more than you gain. But the major thing that happened was the day that video came out, there was so many interactions on the market, it crashed it. And the market was dead for for at least an hour or so, which I thought was quite funny. We also, like yesterday, we were looking at if you actually have a look at if you look at the forums right now, like the War Thunder forums, let's see if I can find it. Because you have like the top post thing, right? Like, let's see, where can I find it? Let's see. I don't know how to kind of like show it, but basically there was like the top post of like the day or whatever, and it's just this post, this suggestion for a tech tree. Basically, there we go. It's a Latin American ground forces tree. So basically, the wonderful wet dream of all of these things, where people have nationalistic tendencies. They want to see their vehicles in the game, so they just want them in any way possible. So another YouTuber made a video about that like suggestion and basically told people, hey, go vote yes on this. So straight up just manipulating the forums to get things passed. But c'est la vie, it happens every day. This is just more of like a large scale thing, kind of showing what's going on, right? And what ended up happening is the post now has 9,000 upvotes. The average like post on that Reddit for suggestions has like maybe 100 at most. And that thing has 9,000 now. So that shows the type of manipulation that can happen, and also moving around narratives. What you'll also find and realize how it's manipulated and why you can tell it's manipulated is because it hardly has any comments on it, and it also has hardly any actual like hearts on it or anything. It's just people have turned up to the post, been logged into the game, hit that top button, and then left the page, right? But c'est la vie. I don't think there's any rules against it or anything like that, but it just shows how kind of crazy the whole thing is that you can do that. And it's something that I've been super wary of the last like few years, because obviously we've talked about the fact that you can really easily like push narratives in certain ways, right? Like whenever you have like I even get like comments on videos and things like that. Like the FA I did a video on the FAU2 talking about how it's actually a very good vehicle, but it has like a fundamental flaw. But if you can manage that fundamental flaw, which is the wing ripping, you can do really, really well with it. And then there was like a bunch of forum posts talking about how they need to fix the wing ripping from people. And then also there was like comments of like, oh, this is why I'm seeing so many of these damn things now. Like the effect that people have, even from a small level, it's hard to kind of show. And from a market level, if you like, first of all, run a bot to be able to buy stuff at certain prices and then also sell them at certain prices and also get people to manipulate stuff, it's very easy it's very easy to muck about with, because the only variable is whether Gaijin will or won't release, you know, certain things going on like in the future. And they will, you know, they're going to do these loot boxes, so you know when certain things are going to happen, you know when the sales are going to be, so you can work around all of these things. So yeah, you can just straight up manipulate the whole thing really easily, right? It's basically the same time as like when they do like when they release a vehicle for sale which was taken off sale ages ago, and then you make a video about, you know, it being really good. It's just how it is. The same idea at the end of the day. But yeah, it's the market itself is fantastic because it's pretty open, and means once again that people can get you know, free stuff in a way. Like you can grind the game and get and buy stuff, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's also been the core of a lot of very negative decisions made for the game in the last few years. What's the best way to grind without spending money? Exclamation mark grind. It will give you a video that will help you. Follow that video, you'll have a wonderful time. Don't worry, be happy. The idea of a Latin American tree is stupid as an actual Latino. Well, the reason why the tree exists is to try and force those vehicles into the game, because there's once again, like, it's just nationalism. And nationalism isn't a bad thing, as we've talked about many times, but it's literally the driving factor behind this. It isn't the fact whether it will work. It isn't the fact whether it'll be fun. It's just, I grew up with these things. I want to see them. That's the whole point of it. And I want to see them, and I want them to have my flag in the game, right? Like that's literally it. That's the whole thing. There you go. That's it's just how it all goes. You know, I want these Brazilian vehicles. Would they work in the game? I don't care. I'm Brazilian. I want the vehicles and I want my flag. Like, it's nuts to me, man. It's crazy how we live in such like this whole like interconnected world, right? But that's still a core thing to a lot of people. If you really want a really interesting look into that stuff, one of the things that was really interesting to look at was the Rio de Janeiro CSGO major that they did. It was one of the last majors that they did, and they hired a guy called Gaules. Gaules, I think, now is actually the largest streamer in the world, and it's because of like the Latin America community, because there's so many people there, and also there's this whole like together thing going on. He also has the whole Spanish stuff and all that going on, but yeah, he was also able to get the rights to like stream like, you know, sporting events and things like that, which are huge for somebody like through the internet. And he said a kind of infamous line at the Rio Major, which was kind of just told you how a lot of people in those areas of the world think. He said, this major is not for the world, it is for Brazil. So the idea is, fuck the rest of the world, this is just for us. But the problem with doing something like that is the CSGO major is for everybody. That's the whole point of the major. It is designed in a way that there are teams competing for everywhere. You know, it's an international event where everybody plays. And every other single CSGO major, you just haven't had that kind of thing. And it meant that during the major, when a Brazilian team wasn't playing, right, or Brazilian team wasn't involved, there was nobody in the stadium. Because they just didn't care. Because once again, the mentality is not, we're going to watch the game, we're going to have fun. It's, we support Brazil. That's what it is. And it's so odd to me. Because for me, like I watched the NFL this year. I don't support a team in the NFL. I just wanted to see what it was about, and I've watched a lot of the games. I kind of find it weird with the scheduling because you can't watch all of the games. But, you know, it's been really fun to watch and really fun to see, like, all the different teams. Same with, like, you know, rugby. Obviously, I'm English. I do support the English team. But from, like, the Premiership point of view, like the Rugby Guinness Premiership, you know, I kind of like Bath. I think Bath's kind of cool. Technically, my team's Leeds Tykes, or what used to be Leeds Tykes, or Leeds Carnegie, which have just gone through the floor now. But you know, like I watch it for the sport, and I watch it to see what's going on. But in those areas of the world, there is some really weird, like, huge pride thing about where you're from and who you are. Even to a point of, like, chanting just some weird stuff in stadiums. Like, you know, the whole, like, wishing upon death of the enemy team because, you know, because that's just what you do. Like, you know, you are going to die while you're playing a football match, things like that. And, you know, everybody just says, oh, it's just passion, it's just passion, it's just passion. It's like, okay, sure, but it's still weird, man. Like, and what that ends up with is basically manipulation. Like, you can get a group of these people together and push narratives. It's why, you know, when it comes to, like, suggestion stuff, there in, like, certain nations, there are only, like, one or two people who ever get picked to actually to pass the suggestions, because there is a group of people backing them up to push them forward. And it just sucks. It really does. Because you get this idea that everybody is able to have their voice. Everybody is able to put forward their ideas. And in a lot of ways, that's the case. But then you're having to deal with people who have, like, apparatus, which has been set up for years behind them. And you realize that the game's rigged. It really sucks, man. And yeah, it doesn't just happen from, like, the forum point of view, from, like, the comments point of view, even the Reddit point of view, or anything like that. It happens everywhere. It's just crap. Hey, Acid Vibes, nice to see you. And unfortunately, a lot of it is just based around biases. Like, and it's not very fun. Hopefully you're doing well, Acid Vibes. Then we have Cinnamon Bread Bun. Hey, TEC. Hello. Oh, woo. What's up? Seeing as Gaijin is... That's... When it comes to that face, that's what it means, right? Like, with the... Like, the W. I think that's the Uwu face, isn't it? I don't know. One day I'll figure out all of these sayings. Seeing as Gaijin is approaching the most modern vehicles when it comes to stuff being added to ground and aviation trees, how do you think Gaijin will balance paper vehicles? And should they even add them into the game or separate them into the different mode themselves? That is a cat? Oh, is it? Oh, fair enough. Meow. There we go. Hey, Frog. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. How to balance paper vehicles. Technically, it should be the easiest thing to do ever. If you think about it, because you can just make up all the stats. So, I don't think they should be in their separate game mode. We already have paper vehicles in the game, and they function pretty well, like, in the overall game. I don't think they should be something that's relegated to somewhere else. The major thing that they've just got to look at is just making sure that with a lot of these types of vehicles, that they don't just go too ham on them and try and sell them in crazy ways. One of the problems that War Thunder has... What the hell? One of the problems that War Thunder has had for a long time is the fact that they make decisions which they can't go back on. Right? So they add a round to something, or they add a missile to something, and they can't take it away. They've always had this idea, it seems, that once something has something, it stays. They can't ever remove it. And it's a fair point, because whenever they have decided to move something, there's been a huge uproar about it, right? So with these paper vehicles, what I'd like them to do is just not give them just some insane factor that just makes them absolutely crazy, right? With the Kranwagen, don't give it its 2-second reload. With let's say the TSR2, don't give it its engine which didn't exist, right? Stuff like this. And don't just go absolutely insane to try and sell the vehicles to people. Instead, give them what would be more realistic chances to kind of, exist in a more straight up world. So yeah, they don't have to split them apart. They don't have to do anything like that. And also, it should put it like this: all the vehicles in game that are historical, they have at least some stats which they're based off of, right? So they have some stats that you have to adhere to, whether it's like engine horsepower, whether it's like weight, whether it's like, size of gun or anything like that, shell size or penetration or maybe, missiles and how they work. You have to adhere to those things because it's supposed to be a realistic game. With a paper vehicle, all bets are off. You can do what you want. You can make whatever you feel is possible. You could easily make whatever you want. And that can be very scary for people because it means that you don't have a framework to base stuff off of, but you can just use the foundation of something else if you want. So technically it should be super easy to do. Whether it is or not, we'll have to see. Hey, Heckin' Snake Doge, nice to see you. There are so many non-paper tanks. Oh yeah, there are tons of them. There's thousands of vehicles they can add, which haven't been added in the game yet. The real question isn't what can or can't be added in terms of realism or not. What the question is, what would people be interested in? That's more of the key point for me. Because yeah, they could add like 50 more M48s. You gonna play 50 M48s? I don't think so. Only nutters like me would, and I would definitely lose my mind doing it. So then we have Jerry. What subnation do you think we will get next in War Thunder? What tech tree do you think it will be in? So looking at the vehicles that they've added more recently, whether it be squadron vehicles or premium vehicles, which are usually little tests, it seems to like add other ones or kind of give us like hints on what they're working on. The first one that comes to mind is Switzerland. Right? So for France, one thing we really haven't seen at all is any of its higher tier rank 8s really being, worked on, or, they haven't really added a bunch of vehicles to the higher echelons for France. Instead, they've been focusing on the rank 5 and rank 6 area. Hey, Laloka, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright. Hopefully life's good. But So Switzerland, I think, is primed for being added to somewhere like France. Especially since Switzerland would shore up a lot of the areas where France has holes in them, especially at the top tier and around the place. The other one, of course, is the South Korea stuff, but that one is, I don't know. From a logical point of view, you add South Korea to Japan. Like, you just got to. There's no other place where it makes sense to actually fit in the game. The other one, the only other place you could add it in is the American or the Soviet tech tree, and good luck with that, because you'd get a lot of people pissed off at that, but also many who would enjoy it because people actually play those tech trees. So those two are the ones. Obviously North Korea to China, but like, it's I think North Korean vehicles would be better as like event vehicles. Personally, I think that'd be kind of cool to see them in that role. But yeah, so those are the two that come to mind. Switzerland would be a fantastic ground nation to actually have in the French tree. And South Korea, a lot of people focus on their more modern day stuff, but they do have a ton of vehicles even from back in the day. They're just kind of boring. Very similar to Finland in that way, where Finland has like a few unique vehicles here and there, but their main like thrust is like the copycat stuff from the mid years, like the Cold War, and that actually helps out a lot the Swedish nation. That's where they needed the stuff. You know, stuff like the Panzer IV and the T-34 really helped out that tree, made it much easier to kind of grind through. But yeah, Switzerland, France would be my bet. South Korea, Japan, North Korea, China. But we've seen they've been massively expanding China, so that's why I don't think it's as likely that we see one of those there at the end of the day. So we have username, I guess. Whoops. Hey Tech, hope you're doing good. Yeah, doing well. You know, we've been doing a lot of exercise. This week's just been kind of like sorting out a ton of stuff. You know, like sorting out the PCs, sorting out the new setups, trying to get comfortable with everything. It's been good. It's been nice. Any news about when the Atlas Cheetah will be added? No, I don't think so. But with the Gripen, with the Gripen coming in for the British tech tree, I think it's kind of shown and more confirmed that the Cheetah will get added to the British tech tree. Now the Cheetah is pretty interesting, you know, as somebody who's a fan of the Mirages, the Atlas Cheetah would be kind of fun. It's, if I remember, the issue with the Cheetah is that it's one of those which has it's one of those which was exported quite a lot, but also at the same time has just some weird munitions on it, right? Because it's based off of the Mirage 3, and the Mirage 3 I've just had a fantastic time in. Let's see, so yeah, it has the Defers Classic, everyone loves that. Matra Rocket Pobs and Sneds. Yeah, there you go, Python 3s, and then R530s, and then the Darters, and which will probably not get added, and laser guided stuff, so yeah. That one would make sense for Britain as well, if they wanted to add them in. Hey, your local meme, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. I like how two nations will have better Mirages than France. Yeah, we call it the American syndrome, and the reason for that is because they made good technologies that got exported while they worked on better technologies, right? Think about like the F-104s. Like the Americans have the A and the C, while everyone else just has better variants of them. And it's because you export them and then you upgrade them to more modern standards while that country is working on better vehicles to field for their militaries. It's kind of crazy. Oh, God. Oops. I'm not doing good. Been sick and blood came out. Sadly, nothing bad, though. Oh, well, that sucks. Hopefully you don't have a cut in your neck. That stuff can be rough. Not too fun on the old vocal cords. Right, so then we have the next one. This is from Barbecue Spaghetti. Greetings, Mr. European Canadian. Hello, sir. I wanted to give out 3 ideas that I thought would be cool to add to War Thunder. Would like to hear your opinion. I'm all ready. Number 1. I'd like to see Gaijin make all the hull-mounted and side rear MGs all functional for all tanks that have them. And to also add shell ejecting and maybe even possible reload and belt and drum animations. The MGs would probably never be useful, like for example like the Churi side gun, but it wouldn't hurt to see them fire. I don't really see anybody against those things, you know what I mean? Like I don't see anybody who's like, nah, you know, screw that. You know, we don't need those things to function. I think it's more just a time thing, right? Like it's the simple fact that it takes a long time to model all of those and also at the same time model all the animations and put them in. So it's one of those things that'll happen, just like how, you know, we have automatic shell ejection for a lot of tanks, and also you even have shell canisters coming out of planes now, right? Which is something you didn't have even like a couple years ago. So things like this will happen, they'll just take time. Like, and yeah, it's one of those I feel would be very hard to find somebody who would be against it, right? Number 2, make stabilizers a destructible module. For example, if a yellow stabilizer on a tank that has max stabilizing needs, let's say 30 miles per hour, it would only be stabilized up to 50% of its original speed. Then if it's orange, it'll only be 75. Then red, it'll be 90%. Then black will obviously be destroyed with max repair time of 6 seconds. This will vary from tank to tank, but to me it seems not too far-fetched. Well, this is something that could be added, but the answer is why. If you're at a point where your gun is... If you look at where the stabilization mechanism is on most vehicles, if you are getting hit there, you are also getting hit in the breach and also getting hit in other places. So you're just giving another module for people to hit and for your repair times to be longer instead of them kind of being shorter. So they could do it, you know. It would be something which there's no reason why it couldn't be done. But the question would be, would it be beneficial gameplay wise? Like, is it, if it reduced the overall repair of other modules? Yeah, sure. So then, and then if they add in the priority module repair thing, you know, which we've talked about, so they could make it so you could pick what you do first, then yeah, that could be good. But I don't, right, in the current system that we have now, I don't see it being beneficial at all, because you basically just, well, it's what was the other thing that I was talking about today in the other video? Oh yeah, so this idea of like a shocked crew mechanic, which is something that they're kind of talking about, right? Like this idea that you have a vehicle, if it gets hit by a round, then it kind of gets shocked, and you know, your crew kind of becomes dazed from it. So the idea is, if that exists, then you know you take more damage than you would previously. So I don't see how that's a positive. I just see that as kind of you're making things worse for people who are already in negative positions because they've already been shot. so yeah, it's something to kind of think about, right? And yeah, it's so if from a realism point of view, yeah, let's go. Let's have a bit of fun. Let's sort it out. Let's get it done. But if we're looking from a gameplay point of view, does it add anything to it? I mean, not really. Hey, I have 10 euros. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, it's another RNG thing as well on top of it, which, you know, as we've talked about, is bad at the best of times, a lot of the time, which kind of sucks. The French Ireland match is about to start, by the way. Definitely worth watching if you're able to. Two of the best teams in World Rugby about to fight. Right, let's just do that. Number 3 is add some roof-mounted AA guns for the British tanks, like the Lewis gun, the Vickers, and maybe even the 50 cal Vickers. I play the British tree a lot and noticed that they're the only nation to not really get any AA machine guns up to like rank 4, which is crazy to think of. So it'd be nice, especially on the Churchills. Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Like as one of those things, the difference between having a 50 cal and not having a 50 cal, especially when you're talking about dealing with aircraft, is crazy, right? Like the difference between those two is just nuts. So I would always want to have a 50 cal over pretty much anything else. So yeah, top mounted machine guns for a lot of vehicles would be nice. You know, CAS is a thing that we've talked about a lot over the last little bit, how it does and has created kind of an issue in the game overall, where a lot of vehicles just can't do anything about it. There's also just a bunch of vehicles which just don't have any machine guns, like the MTTD, the Roycat, and then also just the TTD. Like those can't do anything about you know, even helicopters coming in. And as somebody who was playing the MBT 70 yesterday, just having that additional thing is just so much nicer to kind of work out. So yeah, number 1 point, yep, I'm down for. Number 3 point, yep, I'm down for. Number 2 point, depending on, you know, where you want to look at it from a realism point of view, sure, we can do that. But also, I don't really want to put people into negative situations when they're already in negative situations, right? I don't want to make their situation worse. So I'd probably say no on that one, just for like the kind of three ideas there. So we have Ray's Prisma. Praise Risma. Hey Tech. Hi. What, in your opinion, is the best map for Ground RB and why? Mine is Alaska because it lets me play any sort of vehicle in its intended role. I think that's a fair point, actually. That's a good way of looking at it. You know, basically picking a map which you have, you know, kind of a use for every vehicle. Seversk is one that always pops to mind for me. I feel like no matter what I'm in, Seversk can kind of fit the vehicle that I'm using. There is a bunch of other ones that I feel a lot more comfortable on, I suppose, but I wouldn't say that they are the best map. But definitely Seversk is up there. There is quite a few of them. Like, I feel like European or Eastern Europe or whatever it's called, when the small version can be very good, especially just to play because there's just a lot of different ways to play it, which is very nice. I feel like nowadays, one of the issues that we have... Oh, I was just climbing straight to the airfield. One of the issues we have, especially after the more recent changes to maps, well, European province, but like the smaller version, so I think it's called Eastern Europe. European province has the valley issue, but I like the fact that flanking routes can exist, right? And we've now seen that with a lot of these changes, where they've tried to take away a lot of these routes, hasn't really helped. If anything, it just means the initial engagement is now way more prevalent in it having such a heavy, you know, having such a heavy effect on the battle, which kind of sucks. But I'd probably go for the Seversk. Seversk has been really fun to play more recently. There are tons of different areas you can go on Seversk. There's enough cover in pretty much all of them. I feel like I can approach the map in a bunch of different ways, play it in a bunch of different ways, and that's really cool, you know? That's what I'm looking for in maps. Like, kind of like how you're looking for maps which fit different vehicles or different roles. I'm personally looking for maps which I can play in different ways. Because, you know, I play sorry, I'm yawning quite a lot. I play the game quite a lot, so being able to freshen it up is quite important for me, you know? There we go. So we have Suckass from Kiev. God damn. Hi, TEC. Hope you're having a great day. Yeah, it's going all right. One question. What do you think about the immense popularity of a forum post about a Latin American ground forces tree? If you've already taken a look at it, what do you think of it? Did you like a specific vehicle? I commented when the post had 2,797 votes in less than 48 hours. Did you also like any specific Brazilian vehicle? Well, there we go. We're here again. So we talked about this earlier. The reason why that post has so many views is because it was manipulated. So, literally, like a CC, a South American CC, I think it's called Deimos or Deismos or something. He literally made a video saying, hey, look at this. Hey, guys watching this video, go to this forum post and upvote it. So, just straight up manipulated the votes on it. But, you know, some companies have, like, rules against that stuff. I remember that Reddit has a rule against that shit, where if you're not on Reddit, if you're on a third-party platform, you can't tell people to go to Reddit posts, especially. It's like kind of seen as a form of witch hunting or manipulation. But I don't know if the Gaijin forums have that stuff. So yeah, it's not an organic thing. It's a straight up like manipulated thing. So I don't really put much faith in the numbers on there, because the vast majority of people have just gone to that post to click yes and then left again, right? So it's just kind of how it is. So I don't put too much faith into any of that stuff. As I've said before, I don't want any more independent trees. I'm bored of them, you know? We already have a bunch of trees in the game that people don't play. There's no need to add more in. We had a look at it yesterday when Dog put it in. the major issue with it is the same one as always. It has massive BR gaps in it, or would have. I understand that people think, certain vehicles are going to be certain BRs. There's a lot of vehicles which are unique in the Israeli sense, which they are technically unique because they have a different name, or they have a slightly different gun, but the playstyle itself is exactly the same. And yeah, I'm just not interested in a tech tree which only exists because of nationalism. You could take all of those vehicles and put them into a bunch of other tech trees and make them be a lot more fun to play and a lot more enjoyable with a ton more vehicles around the place, right? But instead, you get this weird Frankenstein tree, which people are promoting because it has their flag on it. And we talked about this last year. It's really, it is just kind of one of those things that happens when it comes to War Thunder, where you get communities who go, oh, so these guys have their vehicles in the game. I want to see our vehicles in the game. But they don't want them in what it should happen, which is like sub-tech trees or event vehicles or squadron vehicles, or just in tech trees like the TAM, for example. Right? The TAM is a perfect example of how a vehicle can be super useful and also in a tech tree which isn't, from its country. Like the TAM is in there as a premium vehicle, and then you have the standard TAM, which is in the tech tree, and then you have the TAM 2C, which was put into the game before it was even put into the military, like in in real life, which was kind of interesting. So you can use that as an example of a perfect, let's call it foreign vehicle in a tech tree. It has links to, the German tech tree, but it is Argentinian. It has the Argentinian flag. Everybody understands it's Argentinian, and you can enjoy it as an Argentinian vehicle, right? That's great. That's awesome. Let's do that with all of those other vehicles. Let's not add these gimped independent trees where you have to add a ton of different nations together to make them even work in a specific way without even looking at aviation or naval or helicopters, by the way, right? Like, that's the thing. There's no need. We already have enough tech trees. They're introducing a system in not the first update of the year, but the second update of the year to promote people playing different tech trees because people aren't playing different tech trees. I got the achievement on Steam recently, which was like destroy 100 vehicles using Israel. I think it was. Let's see. Where do I even find achievements on this thing? There we go. So, yeah. So I got Israeli Ace. I unlocked it on the 27th of January, right? Destroy 100 player vehicles while using Israeli vehicles. Guess how many people have unlocked that? Right? Just guess. Without looking, does anybody actually have like a guess? 4,000 people, or percentage-wise? Percentage. Percentage. It's 0.3%. 0.3% of the players have got that. Destroy 100 players in simulator battles, 1.6%. Have over French collection, have over 50 French vehicles, 1.4%. Win 100 battles using vehicles of rank 6, 3.5%. Right? 50 Italian vehicles, 1.3%. Right? Have over 50 Swedish vehicles, 0.9%. Same with China, 0.9%. On the Israeli collection, there isn't even a percentage listed. Order 50 Israeli vehicles. It doesn't even have a percentage. It's lower than 0.1%. But yeah, let's add more tech trees. Sounds good to me. Clearly there isn't enough of an incentive to do it, or there's just too many tech trees. Because the content is too spread out. You know? It's just, like, why would you bother with it? Especially when certain tech trees are just way better than others. But yeah. It's just how it is. So... yeah, as I've said many times, I'm not hugely into vote manipulation. I'm not hugely into, pushing narratives when it comes to that type of thing. I think doing it intentionally is pretty crap, if I'm honest. Because you're basically just changing the way that you're forcing narratives on people, and it's gonna end up with people going, "No, I don't like this," and then them getting mobbed by like thousands of people. So that's not a very fun time to be had. But yeah, literally, the game does not need any more tech trees. It would be a terrible idea to add more tech trees, but I'm sure they will in the future because the game has to constantly expand. But sub-tech trees are the way forward. They have been for years now, and definitely should be focused on. Anybody pushing for independent tech trees are doing them for the wrong reasons. Because the reasons are never gameplay, they're always nationality. Every single time. Yugoslavia doesn't even exist anymore. And also would be a crap tech tree. Like, there's no point in any of them. Just get rid of them and just don't even put that in the mind, So yeah, that's basically my opinion. Add all the vehicles there. Add them all in. Give them their flags on the vehicles themselves. You can easily do that. Just add them all in with the flags. Like you can see here, this one has the Israeli flag. Doesn't that look cool? This one has the French flag. This one also the Israeli one. Isn't that nice? Just give them their flags so people are happy. Don't make them independent trees. Easy peasy. Because you're just gonna put people in bad situations. Hey boy, nice to see you. Haitian tech tree, yeah. But yeah, the major issue with stuff like the Yugoslavia stuff is, once again, most of it is just things you could just stick in other tech trees. So it would make much more sense just to do that. So yeah, what would I want to do with all the vehicles? Add them all, just not in an independent tree. Yeah, that's something that happens a lot as well, hacking Snack Doge. Like, that's happened for a long time. We call that the dozer mentality. You gotta be super careful of the dozer mentality. Ooh. There we go. Do you know why my camera is in first person when I play the long matches, or whatever it's called? It's really annoying, by the way. I'm really new to War Thunder. Are you playing simulator battles? In simulator battles, it locks you into this view or this view. So you don't get this view. If you're playing arcade battles or realistic, you get the third person view. So that's basically why. It's the game mode that you'll be playing. By the way, !new can help you if you're new to War Thunder. Gives you a playlist of a bunch of things going on. But yeah, simulator is, to simulate what you see, so it doesn't allow you to have the third person view. The only way you can do it is if you go in like a plane which has turrets, and then you can go to like the turret view and you can do third person. So then we have Maggie. How do I even get the Russian event vehicle? Do I just need to get 45k score 7 times? Yeah, pretty much. So if you have any questions about it, you go to your player profile at the top, achievements, which you can't see because the thing's covering it, but you go to Call of the Dragon, and then you can have a look at the tasks. And then here, it kind of shows you what each of the tasks gets you. So if you want the vehicle, you need to get 8. Is it 8 marks of distinction, I believe? Yeah, so you see how it says 1 out of 8 here for the vehicle? So you have to complete 8 of them out of the 9 that exist. So it runs every 2 days. You need to get 45,000 mission score every 2 days. In ground forces, rank 3 or higher, and you can get the vehicle. Since you only need 8 out of 9, you can technically miss one of the tasks. But if you want to track it real well, you just go to profile at the top, achievements, and then you go here. And then what you can do is you can click the to favorites, and then it will be in your hangar for you. But yeah, it's the same as all of the other events that they do. If this is like your first event, or if this is something that you haven't seen before, then yeah, it's you'll get used to it pretty quick, because every other event is straight up set up like this nowadays, which is quite funny to think about. I think American top tier is too weak right now. I'll lobby for the addition of the F-35 with the AIM-9Xs. Sounds good to me. What game mode was it? You have to bomb runway strips for XP? Well, technically all of them. Are you looking to power grind or something? Even though you're new to the game? What are you trying to get out of the game? I think one of the few military-related things Norway produces is ammunition and high-tech stuff. We haven't made local vehicles since Troll, which went the way of the highway a long time ago. That's fair. Hey SK, nice to see you. I guess I'm a 3% Israeli main with 2,000 kills. You are 0.3%. Crazy, isn't it, SK? It's nuts when you actually have a look at those stats. But also remember, that's everybody who's ever installed the game, you know? If you're trying to get the fastest research possible, !grind. If you're new to the game and you just go into simulator to bomb bases to research, you're gonna have an awful time, man. Like, what's the point? You're not playing a game at that point. You're basically just a robot. Do you want to be a robot? At least experience the game a bit, you know? But yeah, the event is set up pretty easily. You know, it's not too crazy. It shouldn't be too bad. This lag is having a tough time. Alright, here we go. Then we have Type 10. Hey, TEC. I love the PLZ-83 SPH, but the turret is so huge. Whenever I get Alaska, I always seem to win. Is there any difference between the TKX and the Type 10? I think it's just a reskin. A day ago, I was in my 16AJ. I look at the players, and I just see almost a full team of F4Ss. I immediately left, because I know it's not worth my time protecting those guys. That's all. Have a nice day. The TKX has slight different visual stuff to the Type 10, doesn't it? Like, it doesn't have the kind of, what's the word? It doesn't have like the like the crew compartment like thing on it. What's the word I'm looking for? Like the storage? It doesn't have the crew storage on it. But apart from that, yeah, it's exactly the same. Like, I don't think there's anything different on it. And, you know, that's kind of really what Japan needs. You know, they did a really good job with the Type 74s. They did a really good job with the Type 90s and also the Type 10s. Sometimes you do just need kind of some copy-paste stuff to fill out lineups and to try and have some fun with. Because if you end up in a place where you don't have that stuff, it can be a bit of a pain to try and get these things sorted, you know? Yeah, the TKX is the prototype of the Type 10, but I can't remember the differences between them apart from, at least in game. I think it's because the difference is the crew like storage areas on it. Like the turret, it looks like it's thinner, right? But it's not actually thinner. It's just that it's missing that storage. Alright, let's see. The PLZ-83 was pretty fun when I played it. I kind of benefited from that overpressure bug though, so I feel like if I go back and play it, it probably won't be as good, but it'll still be fun. Like those types of vehicles I've been playing a lot the last little bit, and I can't say really anything bad about them. Like they've been alright to play. I just wish that they'd added them a little bit more like staggeringly instead of all at the same time. Like I'd be kind of fine if they added like, you know, an M109 for, you know, a patch every year for like 2 years. Since they added them all at the same time, it got kind of boring grinding them all out. And same with the PLZ-83. The other problem is, since it came out at the same time as the as the M109s, I started to realize, like, after grinding like the 2S1, the 2S3M, the PLZ3, I realized why I despise those vehicles, and it's because they all have some problem with them. So you have to work around that. You have to work around all those different little issues that they have. Where the M109, its weakness is like the reload, but because of the transmission, you can just buggy on out of there if you want. So it's quite nice at the end of the day. I need to get back into playing those vehicles though. I spaded the T80B and also the MBT-70, so I'm slowly but surely getting back up into those areas. Having a bit of fun with it, you know, enjoying myself. So then we have Speed Trees. Good day, Tech. Good day. Bit of a shorter one this time. Have you tried War Thunder in VR? I think it's a pretty fun way to do some messing around. Even playing Ground Abbey in VR is quite fun. A lot more immersive than War Thunder normally is. Though there are some minor gripes I have, like scope view always being centered to the front of your plane area as opposed to where you're looking. But even still, quite a bit of fun. I got flight control set up so I can fly CAS, CAP as well, while just using keyboard controls for tanks. Oh, that's kind of cool. I've tried VR previously, and it just doesn't work with me. It hurts my head, if I'm honest with you. It's one of those I am one of those people where it does make me nauseous when I use it. So I'm not a huge fan of those things. I wish that in general I was a little bit better for me. I don't know if it's like a frame rate thing or a smoothness thing or whatever it is, but it just kind of makes me a bit ill. So it's a bit of a problem. Wish it wasn't the case, but c'est la vie. That's just how it is. I'm glad that people are able to enjoy it, because it is a part of the game that does get developed pretty extensively in War Thunder. Like, they also have that good old PlayStation VR game. Did that ever come out? Like, did that game ever come out? That that PlayStation War Thunder VR game, which was like a paid version of kind of War Thunder, where it just gave you a bunch of vehicles that you could use. I don't know if it ever came out, you know. I'm pretty sure it did. I don't know. I never really followed up on it after seeing it. Like, it was kind of a cool idea. And, you know, obviously it meant that you could have a flagship product for the VR stuff and everybody could be together, but I don't know what happened to it. or if it went anywhere. But yeah, VR is kind of cool. It's just not for me, and that sucks, but you know what you're gonna do about it. I'm glad that other people get to enjoy it at the end of the day. So we have Maxall. Hello, Tech. I'd like to ask, am I the only one who wants a Panzer 2L at some point at 2.0 or something? It seems like... let's see. There we go. It seems like it would be nice and is the cutest tank ever. Also, anything to help Japanese transition from 3rd to 4th tier so you don't solo the Chiri 2 at 5.0. Personally, I didn't have a good time with the Cheeto. Maybe I need to unlock more mods. What do you think? Well, the subtexture idea is how you fix that, right? Or you just add more American vehicles to those areas to actually make it a little bit more fun. The first part though about the Panzer IIL, yeah, sure. If you don't know what the Panzer IIL is, it's like a really up armored Panzer II. So it just has a metric ton of armor on it, at least from the front of it. I don't know how it is from the rest of it, but yeah, so it's kind of cool to see. Like it's one of those things which I'm sure they will add at some point. It's just when they actually do add it. It's I think in general it would be an event vehicle, right, or some kind of like squadron vehicle, or well, maybe a battle pass vehicle. It might be a bit low for a battle pass vehicle. But yeah, stuff like that and the looks. The looks would be cool with its kind of motory engine. Actually, I might be confusing those two because there's the looks, which was like kind of like the scout version with the uprated engine, and then there was the one which was like the heavy one, right? Yeah, Panzer 2J. There you go. Sorry, my bad. Well, both of them will be good. So for different reasons. But yeah, the Panzer, the looks actually would be really nice to see because they finally up tiered the Puma. Like the 2342 is now at like 33 or something, where obviously before it was a lot lower, and this basically meant that that you could run it at rank 2 as a scout with a bunch of different vehicles. Now you have that gap there because they upped the Puma, so I think it would be a lot better. I think it would be a lot better if they just added that in. Maybe that's why they finally upped the add it because they're gonna add it in. Who knows? So yeah, should be quite fun to see. Oh, sorry, a bit thirsty today. Thirsty work talking. I've also been cutting calories again to reduce weight, which has been going really well, but it also means I just want to drink all the time because you got to fill the stomach. But yeah, Subtech Tree for Japan, the Korean stuff we talked about, and the looks, yeah, definitely. It would fill a gap and it would be super fun to play. Same with the J2. Both of them would be fun. Oh my, this is a long one. So we have Common Sense. Hey Tech, glad to see you doing well. Funny you mention watching shows while on the exercise bike, because I also do that. It's a good way to binge through different series per month. Plus, I can mix in a bit of War Thunder Bomber play and spading because I play an Xbox with a controller. Pretty much the only advantage of using the console controller setup. Might I suggest It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because it's amazing, hilarious comedy, and the episodes are short for 10k, 20-30 minute bike ride. Oh, that's perfect then. Also, if you haven't seen Generation Kill yet, it's amazing USMC GWOT series from back in the day. My American buddy, who was a USMC Abrams driver in Iraq, says it was the best realistic depiction of the war. Now I've got so I'm doing 10k in 22 minutes. So that's, and I could go faster if I want, but that's where I'm kind of at. So I need to add in either another 10k on the day, which I can do in the evening, or doing it at some other time, and I'll be happy. I really want to get like the walking thing going, but it's just time, man. Like I don't know how people have time to exercise as much as they do. But yeah, I tried to watch that. What is that show? So there's The Boys, right? Which had a few decent seasons and were quite enjoyable. And then what was the other one? The Generation 7 or something. They did like they had a show which was kind of like the one which is lower than it on Prime or on Amazon. It's more based around like university stuff, and Generation 5, that's the thing, or Gen 5. I've watched like 20 minutes of like the first episode, and I don't know, it's just they made a PewDiePie joke about him being a Nazi, and then they made a joke about going out with Jake Paul, and I was like, oh, so we're just gonna straight up, so we're acting as if this universe is in our world, are we? Okay. Sure, I suppose. But yeah. It's very confusing to me. So the issue is I'm gonna give it an episode, but it's very obvious what's going on in the show from like even the early premise of it. Like even just the first 10 minutes just gives away what's gonna happen like the whole show, so it's just kind of how it is. But we'll see what goes on. Like hopefully we can have a bit of fun with it. And I have watched Generation Kill, and I do enjoy it quite a lot. And I don't know where I can watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but that is one of the ones that I've been told to watch too, which would be quite fun. So I'll give that a go if it's over here, right? Like it's really funny because like I want to increase my exercising time because I want to because I want to watch more TV shows. Like obviously the exercise is nice and everything, but I feel like physically I'm doing pretty good right now. Like I'm very strong and the body feels pretty good. But yeah, I want to watch more TV. Like it's so weird. As for SEAL clubbing issues, there's nothing much Gaijin can do other than further incentivize people to play higher tiers, which I'm not sure I like the idea because I'm someone who enjoys playing all sorts of vehicles from all sorts of BR ranges. For me, Gaijin already has a partial anti-SEAL clubbing mechanic built in with the dailies, with rank 3 and up, and some of the pages of history challenges, but not all of them. It's a very tough balance to strike between newer players and being able to access these challenges and veteran players' so-called SEAL clubbing. I'm okay with where it's at. It's just a fact of life if the people are purposely playing the SEAL clubbers as SEAL clubbers. It's called freedom and democracy even if they're assholes. Only thing I can think of are certain areas is maybe Gaijin make it so people can't just take one vehicle into battle with unlimited backups, like Israel in Arcade AB and Grand AB. I've noticed people abusing the shit out of the Sakine because it's regularly seemed to get down to 2-3 in Air IB when it by itself and not run in a lineup. Fully spaded Sakine just obliterates in a down tier, and especially when you can just roll them out unlimited in a battle. Do you think more vehicles of these types of nations of the same BR would help? I think the first thing they should do in Air Arcade is get rid of that archaic system where if you only have one vehicle in your lineup, it runs it at a lower BR than it bloody is. Like the whole point of Air Arcade, just as like a general thing, is so you actually have a lineup and you have things for different uses, and then you kind of go from there. The fact that we live in a world where it's actually made so it makes sense for you to only bring one vehicle is kind of ridiculous. At least in my opinion. It's abused so much, and whenever I play arcade, like to do dailies or to do specials or just to like spade stuff, like if I have a bunch of lower tier stuff to spade, it just sucks. Because you just always have one or two people just like ruining it basically for everybody else, And that's no good. That's not what you want to see. So for me, I would just remove that system. And, if certain vehicles or if certain players get angry, tough tartars. Like, get used to this vehicle is this BR for a reason, right? The reason it's this BR is because it's supposed to fight vehicles at that BR. Do not put it against vehicles it's not supposed to fight, right? These guns, they do nothing. Right, there we go. The other part about the SEAL clubbing thing is, I honestly think one of the changes that I didn't really like that they made was now that you can use event vehicles for events. So I think the cap when it comes to like the rank 3 stuff for dailies and specials is really good. And also, the stuff they're bringing in so people play multiple nations will also help with that as well. But one of the big issues for me is, I mean, you saw in the last set of BR changes, right? Like the Panzer Bill is going up in BR. And there was like 2 or 3 other vehicles that are going up in BR, which really shouldn't be going up in BR, by the way, because they're not good enough to go up in BR. But the only reason there are is because there is a percentage of people who are abusing them at low tiers to destroy people who are new to the game to get the event done fast, right? So I actually don't like the fact that they while doing all of this stuff to incentivize people to, play in certain ways at higher echelons, with the mission score events, it makes more sense to, play stuff at higher BRs. They're also incentivizing people to play lower BRs, which I don't like. And with this new event cycle, which is going to go on for the majority of the year, I actually think that's super negative. Now, the thing is, as said, pretty much all of the different things that we've talked about with seal clubbing and the problems that it's brought and everything. At the end of the day, there's a metric ton of new people who are coming to play War Thunder all the time, right? Like the amount of people who are turning up to play the game, whether it's through advertisement or whether it's through just finding the game or whatever, the numbers still keep going up, right? So obviously the seal clubbing that people talk about is not having as large of an effect compared to what people think it is. Because otherwise that part of the player base, the part which is being basically cut out underneath, it seems to be doing pretty good. Like, it's doing all right. So, yeah, pretty much as simple as that at the end of the day. I think it's fine the way that it is, and I think overall it's right now at least it's going pretty good. And I also want to shout out the infamous War Thunder Sound Man, as the new sounds I've noticed lately have added greatly to the overall experience instead of taking away from it like they sometimes do with all the sound tinkering. The new sounds of the Wyvern and the A2D turbo contrapop screaming and whining through the air while doing cast runs is sufficiently terrifying as a cast hater in Ground RB, and actually assists a little bit more in locating the direction of cast threat is coming from. Well done, sound guy. Well done. Yeah, the planes are insanely loud now, which, obviously helps against cast, but now it means you can't hear ground engines. But, it'll never be right? How about this with the War Thunder Soundman? He can change everything else. He can change everything this year. He can do whatever he wants. But you know what he shouldn't do? All right? This is just my one plea. Don't change the 50 cal sound. We've gone through like 50 variants of the 50 cal sound. Leave it alone. It's fine. And don't screw with any of those like ricochet sounds anymore. I can't make it sound like I'm in Star Wars. Pew, 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 pew. That was just nuts last year. Oh god. What a crazy time. That's all for today, and cheers to all the tech community. Yeah. It's pretty fun. It's been a good ton of years. And I'm glad to have a lot of fun with it. Looking forward to everything else. Should be nice. So we have Pigstick making this comment about the Advance the Rhine vid. Oh yeah. That was a video that I had to do because I was just so annoyed. I had so many games over the last few weeks on Advance the Rhyme because it's one of those that seems like a lot of people like it, but it is straight up just an IQ simulator. Like, and there's so many comments on that video which are just like, hey, so why don't you just let people have fun? And it's like, well, because there's better ways of having fun, and if that's what they find, if that's what they find as fun, we could literally create a map which is just a corridor, right? And it just has pieces of material on either side, and then you can fight through the corridor. Because that's all that's happening there. That's all you're doing, It's crazy at the end of the day. Like, it's really, really rough. And for me, I think generally what I would say is it makes no logical sense why people would play like that. Because you can do everything that people are doing on that map, but then also focus on winning the game from that point of view. But you can't. Like, if you just sit in that corridor over and over again. It's like mind-boggling to me. But then also at the same time, the one thing for me is that when I look at that type of map, I just sit there and go, these are the same people asking for map changes or asking for maps to play different or be different. So I can just leave them over there. Like, I just don't need to listen to anything that's going to come out of their mouth. Because if that's how they're going to play stuff and they see that as fun, I don't want anything near that, personally. I don't want to at all be part of that conversation. Because I don't find that fun at all. Because it's just whoever has the best armor, whoever has the best ping. You can't play around it. Like, what's the point? 90 to 95% of my games on Rhine always end like that. I was playing a match on Rhine the night before you made the video, and it was a single cap, so the point cap was where the B point was. The North team spawn was in the top left corner, and the South team spawn was in the middle of the team. We saw 3 people go down the bit on the left, and I even said the Rhine brain rot is real with you 3. You know, that was funny to none of them, and the enemy team went left. Yep. Well, the problem with that map, by the way, so on that version of it, so the version which is the... I wonder if he has EFS. Well, that's a central fire. That version which is the... what do you call it? Is like the Conquest version. Like, so many people just spawn and go and spawn camp. Because the spawns are closer to each other than the actual... The spawns are closer to each other than the actual cap is. So people just go, oh, this is closer, go there. And yeah, it really is just brain rot at the end of the day. It's shipyard, right? And nowadays, when it comes to War Thunder, but also comes to pretty much everything else, people just want to do shipyard, you know? We talked about it a lot in the past, actually, like the whole idea of how, you know, people just want quick action all the time. I just don't know why they don't go play arcade. Because like arcade, like that's arcade. That's why, you know, arcade's one of the more popular game modes and whatever. Because it's quick action and you can get there quicker. If that's your mentality with that, just go do it. You know, go have a bit of fun. But no, you have to do it in realistic for some reason. Super weird. So then we have Harry Ashton with what looks like the good old Vulcan profile pic. I do need to kind of go through those slides I have of the Vulcan stuff. That stuff's really fun. Hi Tech. There are always discussions on the forum about introducing a Commonwealth tech tree. There are many players who want a dedicated tree for their own nation, whether Aussie, Kiwi, Canadian, etc. A lot of opposition to this seems to be around the copy-paste nature such as trees would inherently have, and the sheer number of nations that may be included. Well, the major issue with it is they wouldn't be fun to play. And the only reason people want to see them is because of nationalism. Do you think ditching the Commonwealth idea and merging the GB tree into a Kanzuk tree would solve these issues? Like copy-paste and the unfair, extremely broad selection of vehicles. Love your content. Thanks. They've already done it with South Africa, the sub-nation. They added a line of South African vehicles in the ground tech tree, and they also added a few other vehicles in the AA part. Right? They also added the Gripen. They also have Canadian vehicles in the British tree as like event vehicles, premium vehicles, all that. And even, you know, technically standard tech tree ones with the skink. They also have the same with Australia with the boomerangs, you know, the Wirraway, the AC4, the AC1. They even have it with the the New Zealanders with the Leander, which was used by the New Zealanders, right? So you already have the solution. You don't need... Right. The moment you start introducing separate trees is the moment where you make researching those vehicles very hard to do. If you take all of those little trees and add them into one big tree, then you can use all of the big tree vehicles to research all of those little tree vehicles. Whereas if you split them off into their own individual areas, you can only use those vehicles to research them. So literally the only reason people want this crap is to see a flag at the bottom of the hangar. Because the logical way to do this stuff, the simple way of doing this stuff, and the way that it should be done, is just add them to the tech tree. Just add everything into the tech trees. There you go. Now you get all the vehicles that you want. You can also mix and match them with a bunch of other vehicles that would be fun to play. And you can have a good time with it. Instead of artificially hamstringing yourself because you have this idea of nationalism. That's it. That's it. Done. There's no other thought that's needed. You get everything that you want. People actually can have fun with the vehicles, and you don't have to come up with convoluted ridiculousness just so you see a flag at the bottom of the screen. Because that's all you get. That's it. But you have all these negatives too by doing that. You don't have full lineups. You don't have as fun of an experience if you can't mix and match the vehicles. You also at the same time have limited vehicles that you can to research with other stuff. Why would you do it? Apart from the fact that you want to see a flag. It's ridiculous. The whole thing. It's been ridiculous for years. It's been absolutely nuts the whole time. And it really, even after the Finnish subtech tree, even after the South African subtech tree, even after did they add another one? Probably. Even after the disaster of the Israeli independent tree, right? With how many people just don't even touch it. After the success of the Hungarian subtech tree, we're still sat here going, oh, well, we should have these tiny independent tech trees. Imagine if Finland had its own tech tree. Or South Africa, right? Or any of these things. That'd be awful to play. Why would you bother? Unless you're from there. And you have this weird tie to the vehicle. And as we've found with especially Australia and New Zealand, they don't have enough people. Neither does Canada. The player base isn't there. You know? If you want to do by player base, India should get a tech tree. And Turkey. Not places like Australia or New Zealand. So yeah, it's just a bad deal. At the end of the day. Wouldn't be worth it at the best of times. Definitely not worth it at the worst of times. So yeah, just add them all into the British tree. And then if you want to rename it, just rename it to the Commonwealth tree or whatever. Rename it to the Zanzibar tree. It doesn't matter what you name it. Like, that's the thing. Just do whatever you want with it. My boy is running stealth ammo on the MGFF. God damn. That's crazy. So we have Holden. Oh, he's accurate. Let's see. How do you fix vertical gun movement? i.e. so the gun doesn't move up and down, or it moving up on its own after moving from gun view to third person? Are they going to fix the scout mechanic? Wait, what? Do you mean when, like, the gun gets, like, stuck on walls or whatever, and so it, like, pushes upwards? The way that you do that is you control the gun through the commander's view and not the gunner's view. Or the third-person view. And you keep it away from walls. So don't have it... Just don't poke it into walls. Instead, like, poke it around corners or in different places. Yeah, it's something that has actually been brought up a few times because it's one of those things which it can't be fixed, if I remember. Like it's one of those that just can't be solved, unfortunately. So the way to do it, at least from a player's perspective, is don't stick your gun in a wall. Is probably the best way. Alright, there we go. Are they going to fix the scout mechanic? I don't think there's anything wrong with the scout mechanic, is there? I think it seems to be working. The major issue I see with the scout mechanic that people have is the same one that exists pretty much in every part of War Thunder, and it's the fact that there isn't really a problem with the scout mechanic. There is a problem with desync. And there's a problem with desync because we don't play on a LAN server. So it's one of those things which sucks, that it's always going to be a problem. Like, it happens to me quite a lot. But also the other thing it might also be involved in is crew skills. If you didn't know, your crew skills do affect your scouting ability. So, yeah. Just make sure when it comes to crew skills stuff. Oh, I'm going to run into this guy. Make sure when it comes to crew skill stuff that you have good keen vision, because if you hover over it, it literally tells you what it does. So yeah, that is something to at least look at. Oh, there we go. At least for that, I'd have to know what you think is wrong with it. Are they going to fix the rewards of vehicles and increase the rewards to match the new BR? Especially on the IE251, it has rank 2 rewards, not rank 4, a nice oversight. Okay. I don't think vehicles have rewards based on their rank. I think it's a collection of things. It's usually down to the efficiency of the vehicle at its BR, and also its rank and its cost, and also type. Which is why stuff like strike aircraft, for example, have a lot less reward than, let's say, a heavy cruiser premium. So yeah. Ammo buff on APCR, heat APS, solid shot, so at least they're 50% reliable. Sure. I mean, pretty much all of those are reliable for me, apart from 76mm APDS and APCR in general. All the rest are fine. Are they going to increase rewards in assault game mode, so it's not actually a penalty to play that mode? Well, it's not a penalty, it's just super easy to play. So the easier something is, the less rewards it's going to have. This should have been something taught in schools. So you have simple equation. You either put in more time into something and get less rewards, or you put less time and it's harder and you get more rewards, right? If you sit there and play something easy over and over and over again, doing the same thing over and over again like a robot, right, which is what you do in PvE stuff, especially if you get very efficient at it, you basically are just doing the same things over and over again. You can predict what goes on and you can kind of scam the system. So if they increase rewards for that, you have an unfortunate scenario where you can actually kill the rest of the game, because people will go the easiest kind of route. So what you got to do is you got to find a balance between doing the easy thing to get the easy research and doing the hard thing and getting more research. Hey Zolya, nice to see you. This is something we've seen in Simulator, which has caused a lot of issues recently, because rewards in general were massively nerfed in certain areas, because people were abusing the simulator system to grind out the game. And then you turn around and go, well, why can't all rewards be increased? And it's like, well, yes, I would also like free food. I would like to not have to pay a mortgage. I'd like to not have to pay bills. But there has to be a balance to these things in order for everybody to keep happy, right? And it's a time to money setup. That's just how all this stuff works. Just like general business. Are they going to remove the time on boosters premium time, i.e. game time, not real time? No, they're not. Because the system right now is something that no one really complains about. And also it's kind of a standard in the game industry. Generally, I would say it would be nice if it was based on game time instead of standard time, but it isn't. And if it was based on game time, then all of the stuff would be reduced, so it would just be the same level anyway. Because they have the statistics which show them how much people play or how much people use during these time things. So they just reduce it to that point. The marketplace should not be there for vehicles, because that's the reason you won't see the vehicles back, i.e. the 5-1. I mean, if that was the case, they wouldn't be doing these loot boxes things. The market is good in general, but as I said, has had issues going forward or going backwards with promoting the use of gambling for it. And also at the same time, you know, people figuring out they can just, instead of play the game, they can just wait for stuff to go onto the market. Luckily now they're starting to readdress the balance, because as usual it's hitting their pocket, so hopefully that gets sorted out. When are they going to remove team damage and kills? I don't know. Should they? Is that something that should be done? They already did it in ground, at least for ground vehicles. They've done it in naval. I don't think it was ever there in the first place in naval, actually. They could remove team damage in air, but, you know, we talked about this more recently, especially in the higher echelons. One of the biggest things about air at the higher echelons is obviously the missile combat. And one of the things that should kind of check people while they're like doing the missile combat is if they're going to hit a friendly. And so if you aren't going to do any damage to anybody while going around the place, you're just going to toss as many missiles as you can, and it just becomes a crapshoot. And if you hit an ally, who cares? Because you don't do damage to them. So it's just how it is. The only thing I would say with team kill stuff is just increase the invincibility at the start of a match. Just at the start to like 20 seconds, you know, in a realistic. All the other game modes I can't speak of, because I just don't see team killing there, really. I don't see people really like hammering systems or whatever. There's a way you can fix seal coupling, but why should people be penalized? Because of those who just drop down to lower ranks because they aren't any good at mid to high rank matches. No such thing as an OP vehicle. All it is, there definitely is. Although, a player knows the vehicle map, and because of all the cheaters using bots. I mean, fair enough. I hope your negative mindset gets better in time. There is definitely overpowered vehicles all the time, you know, otherwise the game just wouldn't have metas. You wouldn't have people playing specific nations over others. I don't know how you would penalize people for seal clubbing, apart from just not allowing them to do it, but as we talked about, I don't think that's how you should do it. So let's have a look at MJ. Hello, Tech. How was your week? It was fine. Like, got a lot of stuff sorted out this week. Like, got the missus' PC sorted out. Got my kind of my setup all sorted out now, so it's all running perfectly. So we've got better FPS now. I can do a bunch of other stuff at the same time, and I can, you know, I've made everything a lot easier to do. So, you know, my streaming PC is good, my playing PC is good, everything's grand, right? It's super nice. Everything's running well. And yeah, the workouts haven't been going as well because I've been working out, you know, life stuff, but got back into it today and feeling pretty good. Shoulders are good, you know, legs are good. Everything feels nice. Super supple again, so no more back issues. which I was dealing with for like a month there. So yeah, everything feels good. Just needed a bit of rest, and hopefully now we can just kind of continue and have a decent time. I really want new game modes in ground battles. For example, maybe a mode similar to Rush from Battlefield. You have... Sorry. When I think of that idea, it just makes me want to vomit. You have two teams, attackers and defenders, and you have objectives on the map that the attackers need to destroy while the defend... Right, I think we've all played Battlefield, or the Rush game mode. I remember playing it in Bad Company back in the day. Rush works unless you have... you need unlimited... Right, okay. So, why does Battlefield work the way that it works? Because you have unlimited respawns, basically. You don't have to pay for respawns. And also, you have mechanics in the game where you can get people up. If your tank is exploded, you can't do that. You cannot repair the tank and then it appears again on the battlefield, right? You also have this idea of vehicles, aircraft, infantry all moving around, doing different things, right? So, in War Thunder, you don't have that. Right? Because you can't ever in War Thunder have a neutral position. So War Thunder as a game, if you set up one side to be defensive and one side to be offensive, the defensive side will win 99 times out of 100. Because of how the game's played. Right? You just wait. You know the enemies have to go to certain areas. You know they have to attack certain things. And you control all those areas. So you just plonk somebody on each of the areas. And since you're in a defensive position, waiting down specific sight lines where people are going to go, you just nuke everything that comes. And the only way to get past that is through cooperation. Now the problem with doing cooperation in War Thunder is it's War Thunder. And War Thunder don't do cooperation, right? Even people who squad up hardly ever do cooperation when it comes to these types of things. So you have a scenario where you are favoring one team over another, and what will end up happening, there was a post today that, like, there was this guy complaining about the fact that he was getting the same map over and over again, and it was like Afghanistan, right? And he got Afghanistan 10 times in a row in 25 minutes. First question. How the hell is he in 10 battles in 25 minutes? That's what goes through my head when I look at that. And the reason is because that guy, when he spawns into that battle, he looks at the teams, he sees what's on each team, right? He sees that he's either been up-tiered or he doesn't have the right teammates or whatever, and he just leaves the battle. And he goes on to the next one. And he just uses a different crew. Plays a different BR. Oh, I've been up-tiered again? Alright, I'll leave the battle. Do it again. And he just keeps doing it over and over and over again. People do this. You know? There are people who have like 30,000 deaths in like a Panzer III. Because what they do is when they get into a top tier battle and they don't get the map that they want, they spawn in the Panzer III and they spawn it and then they run themselves out of SP score with these lower tier vehicles to not crew log themselves to get into the next battle. Like, it's crazy. So if you're dealing with that mentality, how the hell are you going to stick people into the game and keep them playing on a side where they're just going to get hammered over and over and over and over again, right? If that's what you're dealing with. And we've seen that in War Thunder, World War II Chronicles. Once again, World War II Chronicles. Just literally years of that stuff. World War mode, right? We've seen what happens with unbalanced game modes. You just can't make it work. You'd have to remove the repair system completely. You would have to increase the speed of the game to a ridiculous extent. And also, at the same time, you would have to remove the defensive advantage. And also, you would have to constantly change the maps, because the moment the maps get figured out, no one spawns on one side of them. So, yeah. it's a pretty tough time. There's a reason why it hasn't been implemented in War Thunder, and people have really got to stop looking at FPS maps or mechanics or game modes and trying to put them in War Thunder. You know a game that's trying to do that right now? That Project CW or whatever the hell it's called from Wargaming. They're trying to make a tank FPS basically. Or sorry, a tank with FPS game modes. And yeah, will it work? Probably not, because it'll just be all janky as hell. And once again, they have the literal trump card over War Thunder, which is the HP system. War Thunder doesn't have that. So you can't tank damage to be able to get into areas. You just die. So, yeah, it's just how it is. Hey, Space Dog, nice to see you. I just realized that the range adjustments to the gunner sight somehow compensates for tanks leaning, which has gotten me to miss simply because my intuition of basic physics and low mechanics also gets me to compensate. Has this been discussed? I don't think so, but hasn't that been around for ages? Like, I'm pretty sure that's been around for a long time, if I remember. But it's cool that you're noticing that stuff. It's crazy how much those things that they take into account, you know. A bit of an odd one. But yeah, so that we talked about the rush game mode, the issues with it, and what would happen. Same issues as like the big, oh, let's have a massive fight between like tons of different vehicles and tons of different players and yada yada yada. Yeah, on paper it sounds great until you realize you have to make different people play different things, and they're not going to want to do that because everyone wants to just play the fun thing, you know. Not everybody wants to drive the truck when people are running around in jets. So yeah, it's just the balance, you know. God, respading these French planes is just a pain. This is just nuts. I can't believe how many of them there are, which got added EFS. So yeah, an interesting idea. And once again, as I'll always say, when it comes to these game modes ideas, you can build them. Use the CDK, you know. They actually updated the CDK more recently and made it more easily usable and easier to import stuff into it. So let's go. Let's get it done. Come on. Get going. I'm bored of talking. Time for action. Get it done. Let's just do stealth. Screw it. Then we have Jeremiah Hewson. Jeremiah Hewson. I have no issue with seal clubbing. Sometimes I want to play my strange tanks in low BRs. 8-0 to 9-3 is my go-to BR. I finally just took a step back from the rat race to top tier. Instead of focusing on getting to top tier, I just play what I want now. Chan 8-3 is my favorite. My question for you is, what do you think about the first spawn of helis with the rockets? I, for one, don't think it's too big of a deal due to the skill and variability of rocket rushing. So I have a super skewed opinion on this. Because you got to remember, so like for me, when I play War Thunder, I play it on stream, right? I don't really play War Thunder off stream, just because of, you know, the time constraints and all that stuff. Hey, Abby, nice to see you. And one of the things that happens a lot is when I play specific vehicles that don't necessarily have a lot of machine guns on them that point upwards, two or three helis always turn up every match and just cane my ass. And they just know where I am. It's weird how that works. So on matches, I would say the vast majority of the time, like 90% of the time, helicopter rocket rushes will trade at best 1-for-1, and most of the time they won't do anything. So if anything, it's just a negative for your team, unless you're able to spot people with hitting them with machine guns and rockets and all that stuff, right? So for me, when I think about rocket rushes, I'm not really too bothered by them. I think the major issue with the rocket rush stuff is straight up when it's a conquest battle and when people are ferried into one or two areas. So, for example, something like Advance to the Rhine we talked about before, that's going to be hell with rocket rushes. It also, on certain maps, you know, where the helipads are compared to everywhere else, they are really good at they have like a really nice way of being able to go towards the enemy spawns and just kind of go after them. But yeah, on conquests, on certain maps, it's really annoying. But the vast majority of maps or the vast majority of areas, I don't see it as an issue at all. Like it's not. It's another one of those things that happens to somebody, and it's highly negative once it happens. But it only happens like once every like 100 games, or not even that. So they get really annoyed at it for like a second, but if they just continued playing, they'd realize it wasn't a huge thing, right? It's literally just one miniature thing that happens. So yeah, it's highly negative while it's happening, but the overall scheme of things, it really doesn't have a huge effect. And it's like when you die to artillery, it feels really crap and it's really annoying, but the amount of times that you die to artillery, obviously depending on the vehicle, is going to differ a lot around the place. So yeah, people that complain about rocket rushing being OP need to try it out. Well, yeah, there's that too. But the other thing is, it's once again, it's not the act of rocket rushing. It's the act of doing the rocket rush with specific vehicles on specific maps, right? So it's like a lot of things in War Thunder. In this scenario, this thing's nuts. Like once again, going back to like the FAU 2, if you get a like 9-0 to 10-0 match, or what is it, 10-3 or 10-0, whatever it is, if you get a full down tier in that thing, it is invincible. You can't die to anything. You just can't. Same with stuff like the Mirage 3E. You're just a god. You can't lose, unless you know you're you're rubbing together two sticks. So when I look at stuff like that, that's how it is. In lower percentage times, it's really annoying. And in War Thunder, because of how the internet works, like remember there's that forum user who he plays War Thunder every day, and like 2 or 3 bad or negative things happen to him every day. So what he does is he writes a forum post on each of the negative things that happens to him, and it makes it look like these are happening to him all the time. But no, it's just an individual thing that's happened in one of the matches, and he's highly focused on because he's typing about it at the time it's happening, right? That's just kind of how it goes with these guys. So yeah, it's an issue that can be annoying, but I really don't think it's, you know, I really don't think it's world ending is probably the way to put it. And we have Maxwell again. Hi TEC again. I want to ask, and am I the only one who thinks that people overreact about the French tanks going to 8-0? I haven't played them, but they both seem to be better than the M48 A2G with the 105 at 8.3. Yeah, there are tanks that are over BR'd, and in that front from decompression is needed. What do you think? Whenever anybody gives you an opinion on a vehicle who is a main of a nation, you don't listen to them. You take that part of your brain that has soaked that in and you put it in a bin somewhere. France is one of those nations which consistently, when it comes to the people who play them, or generally play the vehicles, you get consistently gaslit about on how good they actually are. French vehicles are insane. They're super powerful. They're really good in ground. Ridiculously powerful. And constantly, when it comes to these things, there's so many people, just like, you know, the Italian things, talking about being oppressed and all this stuff. Like, even though they literally had an Ariete, or the Arietes had 2 bugs basically making them unkillable, right? Don't know if anybody noticed that. That's been happening for like 2 months, by the way. So yeah, whenever you hear anybody talk about how bad French vehicles are when it comes to ground vehicles, if they're not talking about rank 1, don't listen to them. Because they obviously only play that nation or play limited nations, or they're just trying to gaslight you. Because French vehicles are insanely powerful and have been for an incredibly long time. And it's insufferable to listen to And I've unfortunately had the wonderful pleasure of having to listen to it for years, where people just straight up lie to my face about what is good and what is bad, even while I'm playing the damn things. Oh, why don't you play this? It's awesome. Alright, I'll give it a go. Oh, turns out it's trash. Oh, why the Leclerc's in a terrible state. Oh, well, here are my stats in it. Nah, you're just crazy. Well, okay. So yeah, just don't pay them any mind and just put them in a box. Not everybody is worth your time. And that bunch, definitely not. So we have Call Me Roth. The Fuel EC game mode idea. Expecting people to do the right thing is naive. There will always be disruptors, and in this case, TEC explained what they would do. Also, fuel simulation would mean we would need fuel points absolutely everywhere. Yeah, imagine how many, FOABs or whatever you'd have to have. As some tanks just have, or FOBs I suppose, or just have dreadful fuel efficiency. Now add in a destroyed fuel tank and you're stranded in a situation where you did in fact have the fuel to move on. So this would then also force a meta of what are the most effective top fuel efficient vehicles, and boom, you've neutered all of Germany's World War II era, entire tank families and other trees, the Abrams, and the list goes on. Yeah, pretty much. It would just be crap, you know. Like it, you know, he's completely right, and we chatted about it last week as well. All the other issues it brings, it just doesn't work, you know. Like it's whenever you are trying to propose something to be added to the game, after thinking about the actual thing itself, right? So whatever you want added, whatever realistic or historical thing you have added, don't get stuck on the point where it is just the real life thing. So, oh, this exists in real life here. I would like it in game because it exists here, and this would bring a sense of realism. Don't get stuck on that part, okay? That part's useful, and that part is very, very good, you know, with how it works. But what is actually more important in that setup is actually, okay, so we understand that it's realistic, we understand that it's historical. How does it fit the game? How does it work in the game, and how would it work, right? So those are more of the things that are important in that way to go through. Let's see. Because anybody can look at something that exists in real life and just go, that should be added. And why? Because it exists. I mean, okay, that's fine. But the next stage is the more important one, right? How would you actually implement it and make it not a negative situation for people? So we have collateral damage. Hey TEC, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm alright. Doing pretty good. I've wondered this for some time now, and it's about Gaijin not sharing specific data on how well vehicles and nations perform at their BRs. We have our own ways of collecting this data like Thunderskill, but I have my suspicions that it's not entirely accurate. Thunderskill is incredibly inaccurate. Thunderskill is awful as a source of data. Using Thunderskill in any argument or any points of data is completely worthless. I've done videos talking about Thunderskill and its issues, the fact that it doesn't track a bunch of data, the fact that it is a self-reported data set, and the fact that it can be manipulated super easy. All you have to do is look at the average win rate on Thunderskill. It's like 53% or 54%. That doesn't even that can't make sense, right? Because games aren't unbalanced like that to that extent. The average win rate of somebody, if all games are balanced, which the vast majority are, should be 49.99999% because a draw counts as a loss. So if you have anything which is like higher than that, that's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, something food for thought with that one. So yeah, the main thing with Thunderskill, I've made videos on it in the past. Don't bother with it. It's a waste of time. All of those win rate graphs you see and all of that crap, waste of time. Complete waste of time. All of it. There are draws, yeah. Like if your battle points get to 0 at the same time, like let's say 2 people kill each other at the same time and you're both on like 100 battle score, or if let's say you both destroy an AI at the same time and they both go to 0, if it's a draw, both sides lose, which is a bit rude. You would want it so both sides win, but yeah, not the case. Hey, Lucky Strike, hopefully you're doing well, man. Hopefully everything's okay. I noticed that Gaijin will allude to a vehicle's efficiency at its BR to explain a necessary BR change to balance it, so they do indeed have the data, but why do they not share it with the community? Are they scared they'll be exposed to something, to S38 at 10.0, or do they think sharing the data would be a thorn in their side because it would give the crazy War Thunder players ammunition to be even more mad, blowing up the forum's complaints? There's been several reasons over the years why they don't give out full data. The major two reasons that I always focus on because they're the most important is, number one, people would react to the data to then play those specific vehicles and basically just create like a thingy prophecy. So they would look at all of the stats of what's doing well and then just go play them. This used to happen a lot when the community was a lot smaller in War Thunder, where you would have what was known as Flavor of the Month vehicles. You technically still have it, they're just more premiums nowadays. But what would happen is, since it was a lot smaller community, like people would end up just playing a very small amount of vehicles, which were seen as the best at the time. This meant that matchmaking was stagnant, it was boring, and you just faced the same stuff over and over and over again. You didn't get stuff like this. Where do you see here at this tier where there's so many different vehicles? At higher tiers, you know, there's not a lot of variety, but at lower tiers, there's a decent amount. So basically, people would look at the data and just go, okay, these are the vehicles that are doing the best, I'm going to go play them. If you want an example of this, Dota, League of Legends, any other game, World of Tanks even, like this happens all the time with those types of things. So it's the fact that they want to put a fog in front of that so people don't just play that stuff, and then it skews the data even more because the only data sets you get are for those vehicles now, so therefore you can't balance the rest of the game because you don't have any data on it because nobody plays anything else. And then what's the point in bringing in all of these different vehicles and bringing in all these different things if nobody plays them? Because they're all stuck playing the things that are deemed as meta. The other one is selective data sampling, or just selective data in general. If I give you 2 points of data and ask you to come up with a conclusion on it, what if you come up with a conclusion and then I show you that there are actually 50 points of data and you extrapolated in the wrong direction, therefore your conclusion is terrible compared to what it should have been if you have a look at all the data. We already see this happen with Thunderskill, and we already see this happen with many different things in War Thunder, where people will take singular statistics and say, wow, this vehicle is broken, why is it like this? For example, today, one of my favorite ones is somebody was saying that the Key 44 has a higher engine horsepower than the A6M5 Co. How is the A6M5 Co so much higher in BR if it has less engine power? What? Because a vehicle isn't just what its horsepower is? It's like with the Object 292. People are, oh, there's a lot of penetration on that gun, isn't there? Yeah, but it don't got nothing else. Yeah, just like the LOSAT. It's like, oh, look at this missile. It's super quick and it pens a lot. Yeah, but you can't fire on the move. So people take individual points of data to push narratives. This already happens all the time in War Thunder, to a point of just annoyance, right? It's like looking at this vehicle, right? It's a 3.0. Its engine overheats to shit. It's got pretty low, pretty low horsepower. But look, it has a ton of ammunition, so you can outlast the enemy, right? Isn't that awesome? So you can wait for everybody to fight, and then you can get involved, because you got a ton of ammunition. That ammunition is for 7.5 millimeters that don't do any damage. See? So you would just get a bunch of people who would look at the stats, forget about 95% of the stats, right? And then they would use like 5% or even 1% or 0.1% of them to push narratives. And therefore, what would happen is what you see in the game is not what is being shown to you, which already happens once again, but it would just be worse, right? And it would make people constantly question if what they were doing is correct, and also on top of it, you have everybody only playing a small select like set of vehicles. Like, that to me sounds like hell. So yeah, that's why they do that. That's why they've never been open about these things, and I don't think they should be. You know, I still don't. To this day, and I think forever, I think it's a good idea for them to not show these things. The other thing also is competition, right? Let's say that you are another gaming company, or let's say that you are a interested party in the space, and you are looking to try and make competitors, or you are trying to make a game which will appeal to the most people, and you want a piece of the War Thunder community. If I give you public stats about what vehicles people like playing and what vehicles people like, going forward with, you've just basically given your competition a straight up just full sample set of user data from your own company. For free. Like, so it would make the gameplay worse. It would also make it so it would make the gameplay worse because people would only play a small select part of the game. And also, you have the opportunity to give a bunch of other businesses more data than they should have, right? It's the reason why private companies don't have publicly available finances. Because it isn't just about being transparent and being open. It's about, as I hope people would understand nowadays, that many people would use and abuse that data to get a leg up in the business world. So yeah, there's plenty of different things, but those are the ones that always come to the mind when pushing for these ideas. And as I said, I get why people want, I get why people want all of these things to be publicly available, but the amount of people I see grasping at straws for these things already, and the amount of manipulation that goes into them, and also just the ego that ends up being part of it as well. Like, oh, I'm the reason why that BR or why that vehicle went up, right? We've even seen that in the past with certain ones. So yeah, it's just nuts. If I'm wrong about this whole thing and Gaijin actually posts the data, I'd love to see it. That's the thing, I don't think I would. I kind of like having this air of, as I said, kind of gray area. Hello, Tech and everyone reading, and welcome to an episode of It Exists in Real Life, so Gaijin should add it. In today's episode, armored vehicle launched bridges, or what's not commonly known as bridge layers. Let's go. I'm ready for it. Oh, invincible D520 pilot. That's a thing. Alright. Did this thing actually get respaded? It did. Okay, protest time. At least you're getting a lot of variety today. It's all French, but we're basically going through all of rank 1 and 2. Yes, I wanted to add the entire wiki page here, as any good forum post would be, but even as a joke, it would be extremely annoying, so I won't. Knowing all of the above, it's easy to see just how useful bridge layers would be in-game. They would be on the chassis of powerful tanks, and before deploying, they'd be very hard to destroy, since they could use the bridge as an actual shield or ram. This would fill in for the lack of good tank roll, and hopefully all the rogues and rangers won't die after they shot once and got spotted. Agreed. Right, let's just do this real quick. There we go. How many rounds does this thing have? Oh, not a lot. Grand. Now the lack of gun will be a big downside, but like seen above, the introduction of such vehicle will also come with a new mechanic called ramming damage. The bridge layers will also get points for the amount of damage taken and get scouting in case ramming isn't an option. The scouting will also be necessary since the bridge will obviously be deployed at one point or the other, since Gaijin will have to implement a river on any map to make the bridge layer worth it, and it removes some of the existing bridges. Yeah, they'll force you to use the bridge layers. I think that would be a good idea. But wait, there's more. Hold on to your seat, baby, because this one's a screamer. The bridge layers will also get a boost in all repairs. Oh my god. Genius. Yes, you heard it right, folks. You can repair your tank and an allied tank twice as fast. I should really do dumb suggestions past the devs, but probably people would get annoyed. Now, yes, there will be some problems with the earlier variants, since the crew will be exposed on some of them, while others will be on weaker chassis. But the bridge will offer more than enough protection to ignore any small bomb or rocket. With this, I'll end the presentation with the hopes that you all understand just how good of an idea bridge layers are, and why they should make their way into War Thunder. Have a great week. I agree. Why not? Why not? You know? We all just sit here and we don't live. We don't live life without bridge layers, you know? Instead, we are just sheep to the ram damage. If it actually had ram damage, that'd be hilarious. But yeah, I don't think that I don't think that will be added, unfortunately. But who knows? They should add one as a one-off, just as a funny meme, basically. Just to say that we have one, you know. Yeah, bridge layers for all. Bridge layers for everybody. We're all bridge layers. Oh god. Not gonna lie, I would totes play a medi vehicle, but also I don't want to ruin the game with medi vehicles. In a PvE thing, I mean, I probably would as well. Just wander around, have a bit of fun. Maybe a single player mission, or maybe like kind of a PvE campaign. You could even get like a profile pic of a medic or something, which would be kind of cool. Oh, the French guys just went straight into the side there. That was kind of nuts. Vito Scaletta, thumbs up. There you go. You can get one of my sausage fingers thumbs up. I got tiny hands, by the way. It sucks. Don't know why, but blessed with everything else fucking big. Just tiny Ann McGee over here. So then we have Maxwell again. Third time's a charm. I saw your IQ test video, and I'd like to say sometimes people spawn on the place they know the most action will be, hoping to kill everyone and then move on. I know you can say that's not realistic because you can't carry all the time, but sometimes people spawn in the place. But my honest reaction would be AMX M4 is still 6-7. Honestly, should have gone to 7-0. Honestly, I just spawn when my mood tells me to. Just try to avoid going into front line and stuff like that. No, I get why people play the way that they do, right? Like, I get why people on stuff like Advance to the Rhine play like they do. It's basically to get into action as quick as you can. Now, there's a problem with this. This guy in a King Cobra just lost to a POTUS. God damn it. Oh, that's a rough time. You can actually get more action. You can get more action on that map without going there. Right? Like, that's the thing. Sounds weird, right? I wonder if people can figure out how. It's basically like, if you spawn on the right-hand side, you can take the first cap. You can take a left and then go down, make sure that area's sorted out, and then cut in the back and just annihilate all those vehicles down the sight line. But instead, people just head in straight first. It is literally just like Brick from Borderlands. Like, you have like the tactical sniper guy, you know, you have the general gunner guy, yeah, like they're designed to like kind of flank and like, you know, do some gun stuff, and then you literally just have Brick with the two hands, and he's just like like that. That's how I see that. Because if you just took like 2 seconds, right? Just 2 seconds to go around the side of the map, you would realize you could get so many more kills and have so much more action. And it would just take you a minute. But patience is a virtue, I suppose. As we've said many times. So we have Qian Chi. Still on the topic of seal clubbing. Do you think gauging could change lobbies so matchmaking is based on player level? So level 99 sweats can't beat helpless level 1s in their first game? Level 99s can't beat level 1s in their first game. In the first levels of the game in War Thunder, you have like kind of a barrier. So you don't face people who are really high up in levels. The only way you break this barrier is if people squad up together or go in different game modes. So yeah, it's that's basically how. So there's already a barrier there. It's just people don't know about it. So yeah, it already exists. In the first few games you play, you mainly play against you only play against new players or bots, you know, and it's just to get you used to the game and get you ready to go. I don't actually know when that stops. I don't know if it's a time-based thing or a level-based thing, but that already exists. The major problem right now is that there is very much a disconnect between what level means and what people think it means. Level in War Thunder doesn't mean jack. It doesn't mean skill level. If anything, it just means experience. But it doesn't tell you what that experience is in, right? So, for example, I could be a level 100, but I've only played reserve destroyers the whole time, right? Like, I've only played reserve destroyers to get to level 100, because it's just a system that's based on XP. So, the more games I play, the higher the level I get. But that doesn't necessarily mean I have more experience in the game. I could just play the same vehicle over and over and over again. The other thing is, let's say you play a lot of aviation, right? But then you decide to change over to ground. Well, you can be a level 100 and you can be like an ace pilot, you know, going around missiling everything and destroying stuff as you go and, you know, really good with your guns and all that. But when you go to ground, you've never played it before, right? So it isn't as easy as just saying, okay, this person is this level, you know, they shouldn't face this person at this level. Because this game is not like other games. You don't just have like one game mode. You have tons of different game modes, and also you have tons of different playstyles, tons of different vehicles. So all of these systems that work in like FPSs, for example, like if it works in COD, which has pretty much like 2 game modes that people play, and they're basically the same, kill the enemy, then you don't have that in War Thunder, right? You have all of these different things that go around and set themselves up. So it isn't as simple as that. it also is like tree stuff, right? So once again, if I'm, let's say I am a level 100 and I played like America, Germany, and France, but I wanted to play like low tier Sweden because I want to grind out that tech tree, if I have to wait until there's enough people at level 100 to be able to find a game, that's gonna take years, man. I'm never gonna find a game, you know? It's just not gonna happen. So yeah, it just doesn't work like that. The system just wouldn't work. So then we have Redned. While on the topic of why Gaijin hates videos, when will we get a why Gaijin hates the player base? I've seen plenty of those kind of posts from players over the years. You could very easily make a video about it. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Like, why does the company which is supplying the thing that we like hate us? You know, why is it against us? Yeah, that's fair. Maybe we should do that stuff. So yeah, it will be quite fun to have a bit of an enjoying time with it. I really need to make more of those videos, but I've been kind of lazy with it because, to be honest, I've just been kind of enjoying the game, and you know, there's been so much stuff to talk about over the last period. There hasn't really been time for additional stuff. Whenever I've had time for additional things, I've been catching up on other stuff. So yeah, it's kind of nuts. I think overall, those ones are the sad thing is they're some of the most lowest effort things that I've ever done. But also at the same time, there's some of the things that are really highly viewed because it's basically just parroting what people want to hear. And it just kind of makes me sad. Like, I wish the world wasn't like this, but it is. Why does this thing have like rocket racks, but it doesn't? Oh, they're guns. Never mind. My bad. But yeah. You don't want to play winter maps if you don't have all winter camos? That's not a bad idea. But yeah, we'll do some more of that in the future. We should have, to be honest, Red Ned, like, it would actually be kind of cool just sitting down and like just going through a bunch of them, like with you. Because if you don't know who Red Ned is, he's a fun Australian dude, and he has a penchant for finding some absolutely wild posts. Like, just you think you've seen like crazy people. Red Ned like lives in that world, and it's just fantastic, you know. Hey Schwab, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Poland Ball, good stuff. Then we have Spanglish Cato. Dude, go get some sleep. I will do eventually. Not today though. I feel pretty good today. This week's been nice. I've been changed up a few dietary things, but mainly just I started having a tea in the morning again. So I had like coffee, a cup of coffee for the longest time in the morning, and I was having it with some sweetener. And then I switched over to having nothing because during December it was actually giving me like heart palpitations having like a coffee in the morning. So I stopped drinking coffee for like a few weeks, and it was, you know, good because I had like the headaches for like 2 days, but then after that I was fine. And now I've just been drinking like a cup of Yorkshire tea um every morning just because, like, you know, I don't sleep as much as I probably should, and also I just kind of need like that. You know how you have like a morning routine, so that for me is part of my morning routine. So yeah, pretty much as simple as that. Hey, Bosun, nice to see you. But yeah, I actually feel very good. This last few days have been quite nice. So yeah, it's pretty good. So then we have Nokomi. Man, I saw an old vid of yours. Why Gaijin hates Italy. I'm an Italian, main, and also from Italy. I just want to tell you, I adored your vid. Looks like someone cares about the nightmares we income every day. I hope to see some of those will end this hypocrisy and fix all the issues. I agreed. Viva la resistance. But yeah, I think the Hungarian tree stuff has helped out Italy a lot. I'm hoping that they'll continue to get some cool stuff. It seems like a lot of their aviation issues have not specifically been sorted, but they've definitely been helped. I'm hoping that in the future they can keep adding stuff to the nation. Less chabbas, more leopards, you know. The naval side of things is more of the thing that I'm more interested in, personally, just to kind of see where that goes. Because I still feel kind of bad in for Italy in the naval side of things. Like they're pretty rough to play. That's the end of the questions, by the way. For the tech talk. If you guys on stream have any ones that you want to throw in, this would be the time. But we're gonna be going back to spading the good old American stuff and getting this battle pass challenge done. The all American division. We're actually technically doing capture and hold at the same time, but yeah, it's just getting there slowly but surely. We got the mark of distinction for tankers done yesterday, which was nice. You know, it wasn't too bad. Italy needs some squadron vehicles. Yeah, squadron vehicles, stuff like that. Why not? Have a bit of fun with it. Like, it's always enjoyable having those things kind of going around. When we stop being anti-French and actually spading the 10M instead of complaining about superior D501. Well, I've respaded a metric ton of these bloody French pretty crap vehicles today. So I'm trying to get them done. Like we'll get the AMX-10M done, but there are so many other things to spade. To be honest, we've been going at a good crack so far this year, though. Last week or so, like there's been like 10 to 15 spades / respades. So we've got a lot of the low tier bombers and obviously the MBT-70 and a bunch of the other stuff. It's been going all right. Like I can't be mad. When will I spade the giraffe? When I research it. I think it's time to get those done. By the way, I think it's time to finally go into the M113A1 world again. See how they're doing. I still also need to do the Mephisto, I think, which is another one. But yeah, it kind of sucked with the giraffe because I thought by spading the Rochev, I honestly thought I would actually have enough to get it. But even whilst spading the full Rochev and also doing the M109, I got hardly any research. Like I think we're like 50% research through it. Like that research hit that you get for that area is so rough, man. It's so rough. So on American tanks, you just front pren it into the driver. Depends on the vehicle, really. Which one are you specifically talking about? Hey, Dado, nice to see you. Guten Abend. Hopefully you're doing alright. But yeah, I think that's the end of the tech talk. Pretty good one. Can you explain your relations with totally not a black shirt Oswald Mosley? Oh, good old Mosley. The Friday Club is very much an interesting thing to look into. And it's one of the reasons why, at least for me, you got to be super careful with people who are in power, or hold power for a long time, especially if they grow up with it, because there is this weird belief that many of them have of this whole like inferiority idea. I have been put in this position because you cannot make the decisions for yourself, and it's a very awkward conversation and pretty disgusting actually. So yeah, it's definitely one that at least for me I find interesting to look into, And Oswald Mosley and his gang of merry men and women are pretty much to a T that idea. You should not make decisions for yourself because you are too stupid, and you should listen to us because we're not. Because we are of a certain breed and you are not. So yeah. Not fun at all. Obviously is wrong and shouldn't be the way forward, and showed with wasn't. So there you go. Spanish Iberian tech tree. Oh god. Has this one been pumped as well? No, nobody cares about this one. Not a surprise. It's a no. Which shouldn't really be a surprise. This one is on the old forum. It's literally just somebody who's just copy and pasted their old stuff. Alright, that'll be the end of the tech talk, I think. So if you have any questions or thoughts, make sure to stick them in the comment section of this video. Looks like Ireland are going to beat France, so not too surprising. France had a red card super early on, which just sucks. You can actually see in the stadium a bunch of people have left because, yeah, once that red card came through, it was always going to be a tough battle. But yeah, we'll continue streaming. But for the YouTube guys, look after yourselves. See you soon. Bye-bye.